Cops One Donut.
What's up?
I'm your host, Eric Levine. Zentino couldn't make it with us today. He has a car issue. He sold his truck. He's one car man right now.
No wheels.
He's got to give that to his wife and family. So I understand, and we've talked before, that I'm not always going to be able to have my guests with me, or my co-host with me, but that's all right, because I have another cop here with me, and we're going to discuss some things today. But before we get to that, I got to give a shout out to our sponsor. Not just a regular old sponsor either. These guys came through.
The best.
They helped get these new mics, new mixer I have over here. We got a good setup going. We're almost to where we want to be.
It's quite nice. There's no COVID on these microphones.
Yes, not yet. Not yet anyway. So so shout out to HRH Combat. It is www.hrhcombatarms.com. So I'm going to dive into them a little bit more since they gave me a new gun to show. I'm going to talk about that real quick. So this is the type of products they have. This is a 300 Blackout. It's got the tiger stripe. It is a billet sand tan tactical CMC combat curved trigger.
Very impressive looking weapon.
Yes, I've told you guys before, I love guns. I like playing with them, but I'm a dummy. I don't really know them that well. It's got the Santan tactical receiver on there. It's got the red dot sight, all that cool stuff. But yeah, that was put together by a veteran-owned small business, and they can Cerakote, like you see the tiger stripe on here. They do firearms, automotive parts, tools, sporting equipment. So they'll Cerakote just about everything. Your car, yeah, they'll throw your car in there. It's owned and operated by Paul Ware, a.k.a. the Sarge.
Good guy.
Very good guy. And Steve Miller. Paul is the certified Cerakote applicator. And then Steve is the master gunsmith. So they're badasses. If you want to find them, if you want to go to their location, shoot the shit with them, 5025 Saunders, Suite 103 in Fort Worth, 76119. You can contact them by phone at 682-304-0363. And once again, it's HRH Combat Arms. You can find that at www.hrhcombatarms.com. I messed up before.
Give him a call.
I messed up the last podcast. I said .net.
So it's .com.
So nobody's probably gone there like, this guy's full of crap. He doesn't even have a website.
You a dead link.
Right. So,
it's
yeah.
Like a spam site or something. It probably installs a bunch of malware on their computer.
Right. So Paul doesn't realize that, yeah, he gave me a gun to, like, showcase, but it's mine now. Like,
Is he expecting it back?
He probably is, but
it's going to be one of those things where you're like, oh, yeah, I'll bring it to you next week.
Yeah, next week.
Next week.
I can't afford the ammo for it. He actually made me a 300. I have a 300 Blackout that he made me already, and I've never shot it because I can't afford the ammo.
I'm not sure if anybody can afford the ammo right now.
This was like last year he made it.
Wow. And
it kills me. I can't shoot it. So, all right, let's get into the show.
Let's do it.
So I have with me a law enforcement person, expert, and today we're going to talk about Real-Time Crime Center.
Expert's a kind of a long word.
Yeah. So if you're wondering what we're talking about when we're talking about Real-Time Crime Center, think like England, Spygate, all that stuff like that you think of when you're thinking of like the man's always watching. Like that's what I think. I think of James Bond stuff to like move in. He's over here off of, Capitol Street.
Like 24.
Yeah.
Jack Bauer,
just like
it's
24.
Like a bunch of people in the room.
So I'm not going to steal his thunder. So I'm going to let him introduce himself, tell you his experience, and then he's going to kind of give you a rundown of what RTCC is.
Yeah, so Dalton Webb is my name. I'm a sergeant. Been policing since 2004.
Talk right into the end there.
2004 I've been policing. Started out in a small agency in Tennessee and work where I currently work now in a pretty big city.
About the 13th, 15th largest in the nation?
I think we're 12 now. I actually saw an article on it.
Okay.
But almost top 10. We'll be there soon.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of people. so been here for 16 years now. It's a nice place. So started out as, just like everybody else, as a patrol officer. Did that for about 4 years, I think.
Okay.
Worked some pretty busy sides of town. A lot of good experience I got on those sides of town, the busier zones in our city. About 5 years in, I think it was, I had the opportunity to go to what's called our zero tolerance team.
Okay.
So a really fun unit that was. That's where my experience with policing was much broader. I started learning a lot at that point. Obviously I was learning stuff every day, just like you hope to. But when I got assigned to that unit, that was when I realized, okay, this is a different caliber of officers that I'm dealing with here. Just because they knew so much,
right?
They were so knowledgeable about things that I'd never experienced before. Spent 2 years there and had some great times there, some great investigations, and then ended up going to our intelligence unit at the time. Homeland Security, had some really neat experiences there. Actually got to be on Joe Biden when he was vice president on his Secret Service detail.
Nice.
Michelle Obama got to
meet her.
I didn't get to meet her.
Oh, okay.
They didn't want us. They have a very tight schedule, the Secret Service guys. They don't like you.
I got you.
Hey, I'm so and so. Nice
right.
to meet you. They're like, nah.
No.
Go back to your post.
Right.
But a really cool experience. So I got to do a lot of things. And it was in that unit whenever all this kind of started, this whole concept of an RTCC, a real-time crime center. So, backing up a little bit, when I was with the zero tolerance team, I was always kind of the intel guy. A lot of these units that do these investigations, they may do surveillance, they may do, these long-term investigations with burglary crews or any number of things. But I was the intel guy. Like, they always asked me to figure things out for them in the field. Most units have that. And I was pretty good at it. And there was a lot of guys in my unit that were good at it and still are. But I took those skills over to the intelligence section where I was at the time. And there was one day in particular that really stands out. So we didn't have anything going on at the time. Mm-hmm. So what I like to do in my spare time is when we didn't have anything, I would just monitor the calls, just kind of, what's going on in the city at the time.
So citywide.
Yes, so in citywide, and it's a busy city. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I would just kind of keep an eye on it just to fill in the time essentially. And I saw a call come out. It was a shooting call on the west side of my city, and you could kind of tell immediately it was different. We see shooting calls come in, quite a bit, and they don't look legit or, it's pretty cut and dry.
Right.
This one was different. So there was I can't exactly remember the details at the time, but I believe it was a guy had gotten shot and he was laying in the street, and officers were showing up and he was obviously deceased in the street there at the time. They were gathering information, and at the time, one of the units was another zero tolerance team.
Okay.
The team that I had just closely worked with, not my team, but another one, like the year prior. And I'm listening to their radio chatter, because, they operate on a different radio channel.
Yeah.
And I can tell that they don't really know what's going on too much. It's chaos, just like most of those scenes are. But they're piecing together the information. They figure out that this is a son that got murdered by his father. Oh. Like, I don't know the details. I still don't know the details of why that occurred. But they were also getting information that the father had left the scene and he was probably going to go back to his wife's house, the deceased mother, and kill her too. Yeah.
Okay.
Bad situation.
So time is pressing.
Time is of the issue. He's already gone. He wasn't there when they arrived.
So as a cop, for people that aren't police officers, you hear that, and from your experience that we got to get over there because it's very likely that he's in a V line. He knows right where to go, where y'all don't.
Exactly.
You got to dig and find that information out.
Yes.
Now, at the time, where was your technology at to start looking for that stuff?
So we had the databases in place to be able to, look up those individuals and say, okay, well, where does this person live? What kind of car do they drive? Those are databases that are unique to law enforcement that we have access to, obviously, to do our jobs.
Right.
And it's understandable that we should have those things. But I could tell, at the time, this was several years ago, a lot of people didn't really know how to use those unless they were detectives in an investigative unit.
Right.
The guys on the scene out there, they weren't detectives. They're just street officers. They're specialized officers, but they're not street officers. So they didn't have that expertise at the time. And plus they were too busy anyway.
Right.
So, it's chaos out there. They're all trying to gather information. Okay, where do we go? Well, I knew at that moment, and I still remember the moment. I'm sitting there and I think to myself, I know what's going on because I can hear the radio chatter and I can do something about this. Just sitting there.
Right.
So I called my friend at the time on the radio channel who was in that unit. John was his name. I said, John, it's Webb. What do you have right now? And he knew who I was. He knew what my skill set was. And he knew that I was not going to call him in a situation like that unless I had a really good, valid reason to call him.
Right.
So he didn't say, get off the radio, we're busy or whatever. He's like, okay, this is what we've got. So I go into my databases and I immediately come back. I mean, it probably took me 30 seconds. I said, this is his truck. This is his license plate. This is his address. And he was like, okay, let's go. I mean, just like that. He's like, you, let's go this way. So
the direction, everything. You know where he should be heading and what he's driving. So now you can get the information out over the radio.
Exactly.
For not just that specialized unit, but any of the other patrol officers that are guaranteed to be listening.
Yeah.
Because anytime, anytime something big like that happens, even in a big city like ours, like for people that aren't aware of this stuff, it's all the officers are listening to the radio channels that are taking over that scene because they want to help.
Yeah.
They want to know. And cops are nosy. Let's face it. Even if they don't have the ability to help, they're listening.
We are.
Because they want to know.
Yeah.
And it's all training. It's always training. We're always learning. So if I can listen to the channel, I can't help, but I'll hear, somebody like Webb get on there and say, hey, I checked this, and this. This is what he's driving. And in my head, I'm like, oh, man, I didn't think to check that. Mm-hmm. So being nosy is sometimes a good thing out there, just as long as you're not getting on the radio.
Well, every one of us, for the most part, we're type A. You know, we want to be involved. We want to be the one to catch the bad guy. Not just because that's our job and that's what we signed up for.
Right.
Which, that's very, very important to us, but it's also fun.
Right.
To catch the bad guy.
Yeah. It's a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he's, and yeah, you're right. He's radioing ahead. This is where it's at. This is the house we're going to. We've got to beat this guy home. Mm-hmm. So, fast forward, 10, 15 minutes and I'm hearing them and they're there and they go in and the wife is there and she's fine and they get her out of the house. Okay. And then they eventually found this guy in a park, several miles away. Mm-hmm. And they had a SWAT standoff with him. They weren't going to go up to the car because that's just too dangerous. He's just murdered somebody. They're not just going to walk up to the car. Right. So they called SWAT out. They tried to negotiate with him, and he ultimately ended up shooting himself.
Okay.
But, when that whole situation was over, I just kind of sat back and said, to myself, did my actions save her? I don't know. And I'll never know. I'm never going to know to this day.
Right.
But did my decision to do what I did and what I knew I could do, looking up this information and telling him this is where you need to go, and him getting there, did it save her life? Did he drive by the street and see four patrol cars in his driveway and then turn around? We'll never know.
The way I look at it is you were, let's say football. You've got the coach on the sidelines. You got the players, but you also have the offensive, defensive coordinators or whoever that is that sits up in the towers and they can see the whole play. And in a way, that's kind of how you acted. Like, you got the guys on the ground there. They got to make decisions with what they can see and hear. But you got somebody that's stepped back and is removed from the chaos of the scene that can think clearly, logically, and just, I'm not saying you're telling them what to do, but you can help navigate and make things streamlined for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's important to have because, every police officer knows, and, I guess the citizens don't understand it, but it's easy to understand when you think about it. When you go to basically any kind of high stress situation call, that's really the only thing you're thinking about.
Right.
Is, okay, let me make sure everything is safe, and then let me start investigating and figuring these pieces out. And it's an absolute cluster.
Right. I like that you're pointing where your mindset's at on an active scene, because one of the ways that police are portrayed in the media is that, you're out to hurt people, you're out to do whatever. This is a firsthand experience that you're sharing with your 16 plus years of experience, and you're telling exactly where your mind was at. We don't get to hear that often. Your mind wasn't anywhere but how to help a potential victim. It's how do we stop that from happening. Right. So I want people that are, on the fence or don't know how this job works that well to listen to what he's saying, where his mind was at in the scene. I mean, there's no pressure here. This is just us BSing back and forth. This is how cop stories go a lot of times. And that's where our mindset's at all the time. And I want to help.
And it's important to point out that that's not unique to me or you. That's every cop that I know.
Right.
That thinks and does the same exact thing every single day of their career.
Right.
So, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, people need to understand that the media has one job, and that's to generate ratings.
Get viewers.
That's it.
Yep.
Good, normal cop stories don't get viewers.
Well, hopefully we can disprove that.
Exactly.
I'm trying.
Well, we're not the TV. I guess we kind of are, but
we're cuter than all their actors and whatnot.
You.
Me.
So much me.
So, okay. So
yeah, it was, back to that story, it was, I'll never know. I'll never know if I saved that woman's life. I don't know. But it was in that moment that a light bulb came on in my head. And I'd always done these things, but I said, this is too important, because these kind of situations happen all the time. Not specifically, but there are situations where officers show up and they don't have the right information, or they can't get the right information in a timely manner. So I literally stood up and I walked into my lieutenant's office at that very moment, and I said, I want to do something. Because he knew what I was doing, because people were pretty much gathering around at that time, and they knew what the situation was in my office. I said, I want to do this now. And I want to basically, set myself up to where I can come in every day and I can start providing this information to people. And he was like, oh, well, kind of like a real-time crime center. And I was like, what's a real-time crime center? I'd never heard of that. This was 2009. It wasn't really a common term. Now, there were crime centers out there.
That's when the first iPhone came out.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I bet you had one, didn't you?
I did.
I think I had a Nokia brick for
I was stationed in Montana, and I had no service, but I still had that phone.
Do you still have it now? It's probably worth some money.
I don't. But just for reference for what you're talking about, Real-Time Crime Center being an idea in 2009, we didn't have the smartphones that we have now.
Yeah. Yeah, so I believe NYPD was the first. After 9/11, they kind of came up with the concept. But I was like, sure, Real-Time Crime Center, great. That's what I want to do. I didn't care what the name was. What was important to me was getting the information out. So that's literally what I did. The next day I started coming in and sat down at my desk and started doing that for every call that I could possibly touch.
Okay.
So a burglary. Okay, well, is there any information? Is there a vehicle that was involved? Can I figure out the license plate?
So you're doing this alone?
Alone.
Okay.
In a city of, at the time, 800,000 people and 1,500 police officers.
Dang.
Probably, at the time, by myself. 10 hours a day, 4 days a week. And it was successful. Limited,
Right.
but successful.
Right.
Had a lot of good successes out of it. A lot of documented ones. And it just so happens I was studying for detective at the time, and I scored well. And when I left, they promoted me to detective, and I went to the general detective office, and they replaced me with two officers. So they saw the value in it based on what I was doing at the time. They said, okay, other agencies are doing this, albeit not a lot of them, but it's a good concept, and it was successful when he was doing it.
Yeah.
So spent a couple of years as a detective, investigated burglaries, went to major case, went to our auto theft unit, did bait cars for a while, good experience. Promoted to sergeant in 15, I think. And had some good experiences at sergeant. When I had the opportunity in late 2016, the supervisor was retiring in what was now the real-time crime center.
Okay.
So they had grown it while I was gone to 8 police officers at the time.
Okay. Covering all shifts.
No, they didn't have the staffing for all shifts. It was 20 hours a day.
Okay.
So 2 shifts, 20 hours a day, 8 police officers. So I went and took it over and basically built it up to what it is now, to where we are 24 hours a day, 14 police officers. And what me personally, think to be the most successful real-time crime center in the nation.
Really?
I think so.
That's a bold statement.
It is a bold statement. And full disclosure, I haven't seen them all, but we are so involved with what's going on out there every single day. That I can't possibly imagine that people are doing what we're doing based on the other crime centers I've seen. Now, I've seen several crime centers, and they're all great at what they do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not discounting what they're doing.
Right.
But the ones that I've walked into, they're not as involved as what we're doing. And that's fine if that's what they want to do. That's great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not discounting what they're doing. But I keep up with a lot of stats. I'm kind of a stat nerd. Mm-hmm. You're probably a stat nerd too, aren't you?
A little bit. I mean, I'm the type that I use it as a tool. I don't think it's the end all be all. Like, I'll look at stats and I'm like, all right, that gives me a general idea. Yeah. But by no means do I think stats are.
Well, they can be manipulated to say whatever you want them to
yes.
say. Yes. I agree.
So I take them with a grain of salt. I like them because at the end of the week, if I look at the stats that my team put out and I'm like, oh man, you guys did a lot of work this week, that's awesome. Yeah. But at the same time, with trends and stuff like that, I can see that BMVs are up or whatever. It gives me an idea of what's going on the side of town.
Yeah.
So
when I took over the unit in 2016, and this is where I'm kind of going with stats. We were what we call touching calls. So like putting some tidbit of information on a call about, I don't know, maybe 10,000 calls a year.
Okay. So I'm a police officer. I'm in the streets. Like, I'm a patrol officer. I get a call. Hey, there's a domestic happening at Snuffy's house over off of
It's always Snuffy.
205 Elm Street. Here's the details. So I go, it's on my computer. This is where you're going, and this is the details. Husband smacked wife and is sitting out on the porch.
Yeah.
So you see that.
Yeah.
And you said you're touching calls. So what are you doing for that patrol officer that's going?
So our primary goal in the real-time crime center that I tell everybody, I'm like, is officer safety, citizen safety. One's not above the other. That's just what we're doing. So try to improve that. Everything else is gravy. If we can, provide an investigative lead, provide a bit of information that leads to an arrest, great. But citizen safety, officer safety. So in that situation, what we would do is we would read the call details and say, okay, let's check that guy for warrants. Is he wanted for something? Mm-hmm. Does he have an emergency protective order where he has assaulted her in the past? We'll run her for warrants. maybe she's involved somehow. I don't know.
Right. It's a domestic, so
It's
either party could be
standard,
the aggressor.
That is something standard that we do. Yes.
Right.
So, and it's happened several times. One in particular stands out. Several years ago, the same exact situation that you just said, just a standard domestic, happens all the time. And I was in the crime center at the time, and I checked the guy for warrants, and he had an aggravated assault warrant for a shooting 2 days prior. Okay? Fresh warrant. So I get on the radio. I say, crime center to, I can't remember what unit it was. That guy has an ag assault warrant from 2 days ago. Completely changed the dynamic of the call.
Right.
Completely.
And the officer may not have time to look that stuff up while he's en route.
He's driving. He's not going to get on his computer and run this person for warrants while he's driving. One, it's dangerous. Two, it's hard to do because you got to figure out who that is. Because 99% of the time, all we've got is Joe Smith, or whatever the dispatcher or the call taker puts in. We don't know his date of birth. We don't know who that person is. So we have to first find out who that person is. Okay, it's Joe Smith with the date of birth of January 1st, 1980.
Yeah.
Now we check him for warrants or check him for criminal history or whatever information we can give to the officer. So in that situation, they say, okay, we're not even going to approach the house. We're going to surround it and call him out to us, right? Completely safe.
Yeah.
So he comes out and they put him in handcuffs. And then they start the investigation for what they were there for.
Okay.
But they knew that he had an aggravated assault warrant from a shooting 2 days prior.
Okay.
And it goes back to the whole situation. Who knows if those officers show up to the door, knock on it, and he starts shooting through the door?
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Yep.
Because we didn't give him the opportunity.
Right. So what you're telling me with the real-time crime center is you're not necessarily zooming in with a satellite video feed where you can read
We do that too. No, I'm just kidding.
So
we don't do
right. So that's what I'm trying to get at. Is for citizens that are like, well, how do you get that information? We're just talking like Google searches. It's not a Google search. It's our own databases, but it's in effect the same type of thing. We get in there, we type in the guy's information, and we get back our police jargon. It tells us the history of the person. Yeah. So when you're talking about the real-time crime center checking for these officers, it's not necessarily that we're using all these, NASA satellites and all that stuff. Like you would think, like the movie Eagle Eye. You remember that?
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's good.
Should I watch it?
It's got Shia LaBeouf. He's national treasure.
Is it Shia LaBeouf or Shia LaBeouf?
Shia LaBeouf.
Are you calling him Buff?
Boof? I don't know. Shia
I know who you're talking about.
Okay. Shia not buff. So, anyway, yeah, it's so that because I'm trying to always put my mind in the state of a person that doesn't do what we do for a living. So if I hear that, maybe I'm thinking, oh my God, what kind of technology do these guys have? Do they got drones that are following us around and stuff like that?
Yeah. And it's important to get that out.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I like coming to these, because I think that police in general have failed at transparency.
Yes.
Why are we so cagey with the things that we do?
Right.
Because the general public knows that we can do A, B, C, D, E, but they don't know how we do it.
Right. And we're not giving away house secrets that is a danger to us,
right.
Or a danger to victims or anything like that. We're not going to give that type of information out. But I think us as a whole as police, we're not sure all the time what information we can give or what we should give, and then we put that stone face on, like, no questions, whatever,
right.
Just the facts, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to do things like this, so we could give in-depth conversation and talk about exactly what it is you do and what it is that the citizens need to know about what you're doing.
Sure.
And just that knowledge alone, I think, helps bridge that gap, because it's lack of communication. That's the biggest frustration, in my opinion, for people that are upset with their police departments.
I agree. And if we don't tell them, and if we don't educate them about the truth of how we do these things, they're going to develop their own opinion.
Right.
They're going to have their own perceptions.
Yeah.
And as we've seen on social media and the media, those perceptions are going to turn into their reality.
Yeah.
Even if it's not true.
My truth. I gotta hate that statement. My truth.
My truth.
My truth. Like, that's not a thing. Like, in my opinion, my truth. Like, it's true or it's not. Yeah. You're, the sky, maybe I'm colorblind and the sky looks purple to me. Mm-hmm. That's my truth.
Yeah.
That doesn't make the sky.
Perception.
That doesn't make the sky purple. It's perception. Exactly. Yeah. Perception.
Yes.
And even the things we're telling people, it's our perception. It doesn't mean that it's gospel. There's things that we talk about that, what you're saying is fact. It's how which is provable.
Yeah.
But our perception on things doesn't mean that it's fact. And I'm trying to put that out there, that we're not trying to say right or wrong, guys. We're just trying to give you our view.
Yeah.
So,
well, technology it's changing rapidly.
Yeah, we're behind the curve.
We are behind the curve. Now, I personally think we're ahead of a lot of departments in some areas.
We're ahead of departments, but we're behind the curve as far as
we're way
criminals.
Behind corporations.
Yes.
When you leave to go to the store and you drive 5 miles and come back, you're probably on 50 surveillance cameras.
Yeah.
Not ours.
Right.
You're on the gas station, the store you went to, traffic cameras, the business that just has their camera facing towards the street. I mean, you're under constant surveillance. You just don't know it.
If you have a cell phone.
If you have a cell phone, you are being tracked, not by us.
Nope.
You're being tracked by Apple and Google and all those other things.
Yep.
So, it's a fine line. Mm-hmm. It's a fine line where those things are at. Those things are very important for law enforcement. I can 100% without a doubt say that we can use technology to affect the crime rate and safety in our cities with technology like we've never done before.
Right.
Like that people can't even fathom yet.
Right. So it's changing police work.
It's changing police work, and we're watching it right now. We're in the middle of it right now.
Okay, so person with 16 years experience, more than 16. Are you talking just your time with our department? Or?
Just our department and others, it's about 17.
About 17.
I didn't spend a lot of time. Our previous
about the same.
Yeah.
So I'll give you from my own perspective. I single-handedly think you guys are the most important part of police work for a major city like us. Hands down, like any other unit, SWAT, K9, narcotics, all those, because I understand where technology is going. And from what I do in the streets, I'm one of your, biggest subscribers because I'm constantly messing with your guys, because they help me catch bad guys constantly, daily. So, and like you said, in real time.
Yeah.
So I would like to see the money. There's a lot, we've got all these different avenues that we can push money into police work. If it were up to me, it'd be patrol and it would be you guys, top two. Yeah. So that's just from my perspective.
And people that are, your officers that are out there and they're proactive and doing the things that, they can to help the citizens.
Right.
And to be the best police officer they can. Every one of them across the board agrees with what you're saying. Because I've asked them, every time they come in there and they say, I show them our setup and I tell them what we do. And I say, this room right here, what we're doing is the future of law enforcement. And every one of them, without a doubt, says, completely agree with you, 100%.
Yeah. The problem is we can't keep up with y'all.
No, we have evolved to a point, I was talking about those situations back in 2017, 2018 or whatever, when we were researching calls and, and domestic disturbances. We barely do that nowadays because we don't have time.
Right.
We have become so involved with the other pieces of technology that we have, and we'll talk about them.
Okay.
And solving cases, I can't even tell you how many cases that would have been suspect cases. When I say suspect case, it's, crime happened and then the bad guy got away and now a detective has to investigate it.
Right. So nobody was arrested at the time.
Exactly.
Now they got to come back. If they want to make an arrest, they have to get a warrant.
Yes. So they investigate it, and it's a very long, drawn out process. There's a lot that goes into that. But we're turning suspect cases into arrested person cases.
Right.
Because we're so involved with what's going on, and we're directing people, just like the coach on the field you were talking about.
Yeah.
Go here, do this. This is the information we have, and do this. And they're like, boom, 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 and he's in handcuffs.
So for people wondering what you mean by an arrested case, we're talking everything is fresh. We're in fresh pursuit in a sense. Like this crime just occurred. Real-time Crime Center has tracked the suspect from actually seeing the event or the event location and the probable suspect taking off, and then they've tracked him to another location in real time to the point where officers can reasonably say, like, this is our guy. We're placing him under arrest because we've got probable cause just from what you guys were able to do from your desk.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's
awesome. I mean, I'm a super nerd. I love all this stuff. So
and it blows people away when they come in there and they watch what we do. They're like, even officers, I'm talking experienced officers that they're very familiar with law enforcement in general.
Right.
And you know, the technology and the things that we do and the things that we use, they come into the room and they're like, I had no idea that y'all could do any of this stuff.
So tell them what my reaction was. So let me set this up. I had a suspect that I had listed, and he was on a countywide list for just happened to be catalytic converters. So I knew this guy, and I knew his people that he hung out with and where he liked to stay. So it's not that I knew the guy was going to all of a sudden become homicidal by any means, but he did. He shot a cop. And you guys found out that he was a suspect of mine, and you guys called me in. Now, I had never been to Real-Time Crime Center up until that moment. And then I walk in, and I was, like, I felt like I was on 24, y'all. I really felt like I was on 24.
We call it grab the cactus. Like, there's this meme, okay? And
yeah.
You need to show it. Have you seen it?
I haven't.
It's these guys. There's like a burning car behind them. And I guess it looks like it's in South Africa or something. I don't know.
Okay.
And the guy is holding a cactus. And the meme says, don't ask any questions, just grab a cactus. Yeah. Because, like, it's just chaos. And that's literally, it's so funny because we tell guys, you know, when they're coming in for, like, second shift.
Yeah.
They'll walk in and we're just in, everybody's just banging away and on the radio and talking.
Right.
You know, and
the like, screens.
And there's stuff going on all over the screens, and we're watching cameras and we're following cars and doing whatever. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like, grab a cactus.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really what they said. Go grab a computer. They didn't even really tell me which one. And there's 4 screens. Like, you know, think about your most awesome gaming setup. And I've got 3 or 4 screens to the point where when I left that day, finally, when we ended up getting the bad guy, but when I left that day, all I could think of was like, how do I get this set up at my desk? And it still hasn't happened. So, but yeah, it was amazing. But I get there as a seasoned officer who had an idea because I worked with these guys all the time, and they're never letting me down. It's always been good stuff. And now I'm in there, and we tracked this guy from our neck of the woods to, you know, 8-9 hours away or however far it was. And we ended up catching him. He had murdered a citizen and shot a cop in the neck, I believe, or something like that. And he was a danger to everybody. And we never got off his case for maybe 4 or 5 hours at least. I mean, that whole morning. So I guess it was more like 6 to 8 hours. Yeah.
We've actually, and just so everybody knows, and I want, you know, especially in case there's other, you know, people from other agencies listening to this that maybe have their own crime center or are thinking about their crime center, it has nothing to do with me. It's the people you put in there.
Yes. Okay.
And their expertise, and empowering them to be the best that they can be.
So I'm so glad you brought this up because it wasn't a point I thought to bring up. If anybody's getting a real-time crime center, This is going to be one of the hardest things that you have to make a decision for your department. But if you can somehow convince that badass street cop, that guy that is a Rolodex, that guy that knows how to dig into everybody, if you can convince him to do a desk job at RTCC, or female, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to genderize here, but if you can convince that person to go into RTCC and help train and be the go-to, the mold, those are the best people. And it sucks to say that, but they become so much more valuable, in my opinion, to the entire city or wherever your region's at, because they can guide the inexperienced officers in the right direction, especially if it's a serious call.
And that's what's happening now with us.
Yes.
So we've got, and it's funny, it takes me back to when I first started this. When I was getting ready to promote, the lieutenant at the time I had that told me, go do it.
Yeah.
He told me, he's
That's
like,
a good lieutenant.
He said, who do we replace you with? He's like, like you've done all this.
Right.
Nobody else really understands this right now. So who does it?
Right.
And I said, I don't know.
So what you're telling me is you noticed a gap in training.
Gap in training.
Yeah.
I have lots of those.
Sorry, I have a training mindset.
You're a training guru.
So yeah, you need to create your own training manual.
I know. And it has been a fault of mine. I need to educate better. Yeah. But I said, it's a unique situation to where you have to have an officer that wants to be proactive and wants to be out in the field, putting handcuffs on people every day, comes to work early, leaves late, but he also has to sit behind a desk 10 hours a day.
Right. Good luck.
Yeah, that's a super, super difficult combination to find. Like it barely exists.
Right. You have one major all-star who I won't name him on here, but you know who I'm thinking of. And I can't believe y'all got him.
I have multiple all-stars.
You do, but the one that I worked with personally. Okay. And don't get me wrong. When we went after that homicide suspect, I saw it firsthand. All your guys rock, but the one guy that you have, I could not believe you were able to wrangle him in and get him to, it's like putting a Mustang in a cage. Like
do you know how I do this?
I don't.
I have had to talk to people, and I've had this conversation a couple times, saying what you're about to do or what you're thinking about doing or what, wherever I'm trying to get you to do. It's not sexy. It's not popular. Like, it's not like the bright lights and you're like out there in your uniform putting handcuffs on people and chasing people. But you can have a greater impact in this room than you will ever have out in the field.
Absolutely.
You can put more people in handcuffs at that keyboard than you will ever put in handcuffs out there in the field.
Yep.
And you're responsible for it.
Yeah. I believe it.
Yeah.
So I want to steer this in a specific direction. Okay. So I want to talk about all the benefits, the cons between the citizens, the police, the victims, and other agencies. But I think before we can do that, we need to know what the technology is. Like, I walk into real-time crime center without giving bad guys an edge on us. What are we talking about? What do we have at our fingertips now that's out there?
I don't mind talking about it.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. I want the bad guys to know what we can do.
Okay.
I'm different in that regard. Most people look at me like I have a horn growing out of my head. I want them to know that we have cameras out there now.
Okay.
That we can move around, we can zoom in, and at these traditionally high crime locations, and these are locations backed up by crime data, years of crime data in some incidents, where they've just historically had shootings, stabbings, open air drug dealing, just the worst areas of the city.
Okay.
I want those people to know that I'm watching them.
All right.
Because if I can get inside that criminal's head and he thinks, and maybe I shouldn't do this because they're watching me.
Yeah.
He's not going to commit a crime.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the theory.
I think it is.
I mean, I can't speak as an expert on it because I can only tell you.
You're not a criminal?
Well, I'm not a criminal. And I don't see what you guys see every day. I only see the benefits of you helping me do my job.
Right. So we'll start with cameras.
Okay.
Because that's really our bread and butter in the real-time crime center. And I would think that it would be the bread and butter for most big crime centers out there. We have a large number of them. They're extremely valuable. They're very impressive. And we will watch these areas.
Okay.
24 hours a day.
So you're talking high crime areas.
High crime areas.
Gotcha.
Is it, it goes back to the whole force multiplier thing. Is it feasible that we can put a police officer in a car out there to watch that high crime area every day?
No,
it's not feasible.
No. And if there's a car there, they ain't going to do the crime.
Yeah.
I mean, mostly.
But in the mind of a criminal, a camera, if he knows that a police officer is behind that camera watching him, it's the same thing as a car in his head.
Right.
Because he's like, that's a cop or that's a cop. If I do this, they're going to appear out of nowhere and arrest me.
Right.
We do that every day.
Yeah. Did it yesterday for my team. So
every day.
Yeah.
So, yes. So it goes back to the whole transparency thing.
So you have cameras.
We have cameras.
Now, what are these? How in detail can you get about what these cameras' capabilities are?
We can read license plates from about 500 feet.
Okay.
So, we can zoom them around. We can move them 360 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
We have them mapped in our CAD system, which is our computer. I don't know, what does CAD stand for? Computer assisted dispatch.
Computer automated.
Aided. I don't know. It's our database, or not our database, it's not our database. It's a platform that we use to dispatch calls.
Okay.
So if a call pops up at 100 Main Street and it's a disturbance,
okay,
and it says there's a guy in the parking lot screaming at people, pretty common call. We've mapped all those cameras. So we know that there's a camera right here. Here's the number. We can immediately pull it up and we can start viewing that and we can say, yep, there's the guy.
Okay.
And we'll tell officers, we'll get on the radio, depending on the situation. Hey, this is what he's wearing. He's got a red shirt on. He's got blue pants. He's just out there screaming at people.
Yeah.
Give them situational awareness. I like to think that the officers appreciate that. They know what they're walking into.
Right. Which is, I look at it from people worrying about officers overreacting. Okay. We both know the 0 to 5 year officer is the one that's in the danger zone for bad things to happen.
Yes.
Because they're learning how to do this job. Even if you're a great people person, you're still learning. And your brain's so full of all this new information and new experiences that its job's hard at the beginning. So somebody like you guys with RTCC, the way I look at the statement you just gave is, I can take that 0 to 5 year officer and I can make him that much more experienced without the experience. I don't know if that's a good thing or it's definitely a good thing.
It's a good thing.
But I think of it as also is he learning from that, or is he gonna start growing a dependency on me? What is he gonna do when I'm not there?
And that depends on who's calling him.
Right.
A good situation, what you're just saying. And I'll relay an exact situation of how something like that happened. I was on the cameras one day watching another one of these high crime open air drug markets.
As a sergeant?
As a sergeant. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Listen up, y'all. That's how you lead. Lead by example.
So I'm watching this woman cut up a crack cookie about this big, crack cocaine, just cutting it up. Okay. I know what it is. I've been a cop for 16 years. I'm looking at it. It's a white cookie. She's cutting it up and individually backing it. I know what that is.
Gotcha.
So I can say with my experience, with my training, that's narcotics. That's narcotic dealing. Obviously, I can't say definitively because I can't test it from where I'm at. But it's enough probable cause to go up there and detain that person.
Right.
So I call on the radio, say, hey, are there any officers near this location? I'm watching somebody cut up a whole cookie of crack and individually bagging it. And 2 younger officers speak up and they're like, okay, let's go to a talk channel, which is not, for those of you that don't know what a talk channel is, we've got main radio channels and then you go to a talk channel for more detailed conversation.
Right.
So as the way I see things, I try not to interject myself too much in the decision-making process. They don't know I'm a sergeant. I'm not telling them I'm a sergeant.
Yeah.
Because that's not my job. I always tell everybody in my unit, it's your job to get the officers in the field the information that they need to make a decision on how they need to use that information.
Right.
It's not up to us to tell them what to do or how to do things. Just give them the information.
So that's a good tip for anybody that's out there thinking to build an RTCC.
Yeah. Because, officers, they're type A. They don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be said, you go here and do this. That's just not the mentality that the millennials and the younger generations want to hear. A lot of people don't like that. So in a way, it's kind of empowering to them.
Okay.
So say, here's the information. This is what's going on. So I hear them talking on the radio, and they're like, okay, well, she's fixing to get into a car. Let's let her leave. Can we go up there? They're just they're doing your typical 2-year, 1-year officers. Okay, well, how should we handle this, tactically?
Yeah.
And at that moment, I was like, okay, time out. Guys, go up there and just grab her. Just go grab her. She's not armed. I can see, she doesn't have a weapon.
Well, she doesn't have a weapon in her hand.
No, yeah, she doesn't have a weapon in her hand.
Yeah.
Yes, there's no weapon in view. Just drive up there and go up there and grab her and put her in handcuffs and start the investigation. Detain her. Right. Then they're like, we can do that? I'm like, yes.
Because explain that. Why can an officer that didn't see any of this go on, why can he go hands on?
Because I'm a police officer and I am telling them what I am seeing through the cameras. It's the equivalent of me standing 5 feet away from her.
Right.
It's no different.
Okay.
I'm just using technology to do it.
Gotcha.
So go up there and just grab her. Don't let her get in the car, because now that brings in a whole other, realm of possibilities. What if she runs?
Yeah.
What if she crashes into somebody?
If she didn't have a weapon, the car could be a weapon.
Exactly. Just go up there and grab her. So, that's a good example of how we have directed, younger officers in the past.
Yeah.
And they learned from that. And
okay. So you've got cameras. I think we've learned the benefit of those cameras. It's pretty obvious for us. I think you've made it clear to anybody that's not in law enforcement, this is the capabilities and this is the benefits of having a camera. We know we have databases to look people up and do that research for the officers that are in the field that can't do it while they're driving and doing their stuff. What other benefits are there? It's got to be more than just cameras and looking up some data.
So you're talking about the specific pieces of technology?
Not necessarily. Without talking out of my ass, you guys have the ability to go interagency as well.
Yeah, kind of.
In a way.
Yeah, we can communicate with other departments,
right,
and share information, which is a big weakness of us, honestly.
Okay.
I would say nationwide.
I would agree.
The sharing of it's not just interagency communications; it's interagency
inside the department. The department itself.
Yes.
Okay.
That's always been a problem for us.
Yeah.
We have lines of communication just because we've established those.
Yeah.
And real-time crime centers are obvious points for that.
Yes.
So we can call this agency's real-time crime center and say, hey, this is what we've got. And we do this. Mm-hmm. We've called several of them. We've got their phone numbers all listed, especially nearby ones.
And the reason I bring it up is because the one time that I had to go work with y'all, we were talking to several agencies live, and we had trouble even there. So part of the thing that I kind of want people to know is, like, we're here making this show trying to bridge a gap of communication between us and citizens. Mm-hmm. It's a narrow channel. But folks, we have a hard time talking just in our own department. Yeah. We have a hard time talking from us to the FBI, from us to the sister agency next to us, the sheriff's department, whatever it is. It's hard for us to talk to each other when something's going down.
It's a big failure.
Yeah.
In law enforcement.
And for me, the most important thing is first the citizens that I serve. That's my priority. That's who I'm serving. But I'm hoping, like, with what we're talking about, we show that I think it's called like a nodal governance. Nodal. It's
my head right now.
Yeah. So basically,
explain it to me.
So you got one agency, here's the other agency, and then we've got a fine hair leading to each one talking to each other. And you and I, right now, the channel's wide. We can see each other, we can talk, we can do all that stuff. And we need to improve that channel because we're basically acting alone all the time.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times it's, hey, who do you know at so-and-so department?
Yeah.
Can you call them for me?
Right.
Oh, yeah, I think I know so-and-so. And that's how the communication is.
And then
for official investigations,
Yeah.
introduce me to somebody that can tell me who I need to talk to at this agency that's 5 miles away.
Right. And then, folks, I want you to understand that as soon as somebody like him comes in and he realizes, okay, we don't have communication with X, Y, and Z, he opens those channels. And the communication becomes that much better. And then he promotes or he moves out or whatever it is, he's gone. That channel didn't get passed on the same way. He may have had it written down somewhere or whatever, but there's no standardization for those pass downs and for developing these communications. And this is where your departments are failing its citizens and its craft, and it's not intentional. No, it's just
there's nothing that's ever been established.
Yeah, there's nothing established on that. So when you see these ups and downs, these highs and lows with police work, I honestly think a lot of that ups and downs goes with highly motivated, great officers, sergeants, whatever it is. They move out and the next person moves in, and it's not their fault necessarily. It's just how do you pass that knowledge on? It's hard.
Well, it is very hard because it's so much different. It's not just enough to pull your replacement aside and say, this is what you need to understand.
Yeah.
They have to buy into it.
Right.
Because you can tell them something all day long, but if they have their own ideas about how they want to do things, it's going to go in one ear, not the other.
I just maybe had an epiphany, maybe a learning moment. One of the problems that I've noticed is I take over for you. You're the sergeant. You promote to lieutenant, and Levine's going to take over as a sergeant there.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I haven't been promoted yet, so you're gone. There's no like any other job out in the civilian world. Hey, you're going to go be the manager at the store. Yeah. The prior manager is going to take the next 6 weeks or next 6 months or whatever it is to train you in that position from his perspective.
Or we can't open it up to say, hey, who has this specific experience?
Yes.
And this specific knowledge that can apply for us.
Right.
We're pulling random people.
Yes.
And plugging them in that may have zero experience.
Right. And then the person that had all the experience is already gone. They're already moved on to their next position and they don't get to train them. And I'm noticing that in the detective field. I'm getting these new corporals coming in that are going to be detectives, and who's going to train them? Yeah. You know, like I'm not saying I've been a detective a year and a half. Like I haven't been a detective that long. I don't think I'm ready to train anybody.
If companies were run like police departments, we would have been bankrupted.
Yeah.
Years ago.
Right.
Years ago. Not because like we spend money like morons, but because we're just so inefficient.
Yeah.
The way we do things.
Yeah. So,
and that's across the board. That's not with, burglar units or real-time crime centers or whatever. That's just across the board. And something occurred to me while you were saying that. A lot of crime centers, and this is kind of an argument. This is kind of a back and forth. What do we do? A lot of departments are doing civilian crime centers.
Okay.
We don't, but a lot of them do, or a lot of them are thinking of doing it that way.
I wouldn't have a problem with civilians being there and helping. And this is just my perspective on this. You need somebody with the instinct of a cop.
There's pros and cons.
Yes.
I will say that there are pros to it and there are cons to
yes.
it. I'm not opposed to having civilian crime centers. I'm not opposed to it.
I think a mesh, at least. At the very minimum, you can't just do straight civilian.
I think if you're doing it the way that we currently do things and how involved we are with what's going on, I think it almost has to be police officers.
Right.
Because whenever we call on the radio, they know it's another cop calling me.
Right.
And you get instant credibility. I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent, but you get instant credibility when you know that that's a police officer.
Well, it's no different than me telling you, hey man, you're that sore you got growing, I think you should take some clover and some hemp seed oil.
Where is it?
You know that one we talked about. But you know what I mean? And, and then a doctor telling you, like, just put some hot water on there, or what, take a hot shower, you'll be fine. Yeah. Like, who are you going to listen? You're going to hear me, and you're going to be like, all right, Levine, he kind of knows his shit. But you hear a doctor telling you, like, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So
yeah, same difference.
And for those of you, if there are any crime centers that are listening to this and that have civilian crime centers, that's great. I think that they can reach the same exact level, but it's going to take longer because they have to develop that trust.
Yeah.
And those individual people that are working in there have to build that trust with the officers.
This is where I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to straight up disagree with you. I don't think a civilian can bring that job level up to where it needs to be, but I don't think just any old officer can bring that job up to where it needs to be.
It depends on the person.
Right.
I'm gonna disagree with you because I think that, and I understand what you're saying, but one of the advantages is if real-time crime centers become mainstream, and they are, they're gonna be everywhere and practically every department in the country in the next 10 to 15 years, I'm betting. Yeah. Maybe 20. But they may not all be called crime centers. Right. They may be tactical dispatch centers. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways.
Can't use that word, tactical.
Tactical?
It's too mean.
Oh.
Sounds aggressive.
Okay. Can't think of another term for it. Actually, I think they are calling them tactical dispatchers. I think that's like the term. I didn't make that up. That's saying what they call them. And that's great.
Yeah.
And we used to have one of those in our department.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if you remember.
I didn't know that.
He was one of the dispatchers. He retired a couple of years ago, and you'd make a traffic stop, and he would check the license plate for you before you walked up, but sometimes before you got out of the car.
I just thought that was dispatch in general, like the good ones. That's what I thought of it. Yes. Like, oh, that's
so
good
one. The good ones. He was known for it, but there are still those out there.
Yeah,
that's essentially a tactical dispatcher. That's kind of doing what the crime center does, and on a very limited basis.
Gotcha.
But when you start talking about 10 officer departments, what's the percentage of departments in America that are under 20 officers?
Oh, it's
like
huge.
95%.
Yeah.
It's some ridiculous number. It's a lot of departments are that small. It's not realistic for them to have a 14 police officer sized real-time crime center that operates 24 hours a day.
Right.
Not feasible. But it can absolutely be done. Yeah. On a limited basis and be extraordinarily successful, I might add. But you have to have the right people, you have to have the right training, and you have to give them the right mission.
Okay, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole.
Go ahead.
So,
do I need to take a pill to do that? Is
I'm
like
just
Alice
thinking,
in Wonderland?
Right? I'm just thinking of so we have a real-time crime center that is expensive. Mm-hmm. We also have many agencies that surround us that are much smaller. Now, I think most of them could afford and do have their own real-time crime centers, but the ones that can't, rather than try to fund a real-time crime center, they pay a stipend to us, and we get set up to where we can also assist them as like a satellite.
There are agencies doing that.
Are there agencies doing that?
There are agencies that are having regional.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that to be like, oh man, let's make money for us. I don't care. I'm just trying to help people out. Yeah, and like agencies that can't do that. And I'm in one business, guys. Let's catch bad guys. That's it. I just want to.
And podcasting.
I'm getting so much better at this, ain't I? I'm really, man. My wife this is a little side note. So guys, I'm in the hole. I've had several sponsorships fall through.
You need to GoFund me.
I do have one. I've made like $250.
Pitch it.
Yeah.
What is it?
I don't know. It's on my Facebook account. It's hard for me to do that. I want real sponsors like HRH Combat. Like it's not that they're just trying to get their own. They actually believe in what I'm doing. Yeah. And they've done the job. Well, and they understand. So
it's important for you to continue what you're doing.
Yeah,
because I think there's not enough people out there that are getting real conversations from cops.
Yeah.
About stuff that we do,
Right.
how we do it. So I'm glad you're doing what you're doing.
And not just cops. I'm going to expand this. Fire department, nurses, teachers, prosecutors, judges, community leaders. I don't want just the cop side of things or the first responder side of things. I want the opposite. Yeah. I've got political people coming in. And guys, this is not a political show, so I'm going to keep it in the realm of police work and not get into the politics. If I have a guest and they start mentioning politics and stuff like that, I'm not rude. I'm going to let them talk and say what they got to say, but just know that that's not my intention. If they dictate the conversation a certain way, I'll listen and then we'll move on. But to get back at my point, like this, I've gotten so much support from peers on this. Like I couldn't believe it. Like I had this idea, you know, it was my doctorate type. I'm not going for my doctorate yet, but this is part of it. I want it to be, I'm just trying to show that this is a tool. This is a tool to reach communities and stuff like that. And we're underutilizing it as police.
We're failing miserably.
Yeah. And so
you're putting it lightly. We're failing miserably.
Yeah.
And we can spin this back into how we can use technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think that there's avenues that we should be pursuing.
Yeah.
To engage the citizens in our everyday processes.
Yeah. And for all the haters out there that are like, maybe you should just do an hour. It's kind of long. No, I never intended for this to be short or controlled time. That's a better word for it. I never intended for this to be a controlled time. I want a natural conversation. I just want it to flow. I just want to talk. And however long it naturally goes, it goes. Our whole thing, we had a generalized topic. You showed up. I said, hey, man, I want to know the benefits and the cons of RTCC. I want you to tell me what RTCC is, and we'll go down the list of the things that it benefits and the things that it doesn't benefit, and the potential problems. And that was it. Yeah. And we're an hour and 6 minutes in, and
really,
yeah,
good Lord,
doesn't even feel like it, does it?
It's like 20 minutes.
Yeah. So we're an hour and 6 minutes in, and we haven't even gone through all the benefit topics. And if you guys see me looking, I have a board. I am a dummy, and my memory is terrible. I've told you all that a million times in the 6 episodes I've done. So my memory's bad. So if you see me looking off into the distance, I'm reading a board to remind myself. So anyway, let's get back on subject. So RTCC, we've talked about technology capabilities, interagency, the cameras, the database research, the benefit to helping officers while they're out there. So the first thing I want to get to on major benefits, let's get into the benefits part of it, okay? We'll get into the cons after. The benefits. What are the benefits to the citizens?
Just just unparalleled safety levels.
Okay.
But it's going to take buy-in at every level of the department, or any department that bites off into this thing that we're calling technology-driven policing. So it's, ultimately what we're trying to do is make the citizens feel safe.
Okay.
Right? Isn't that really our goal?
Yeah.
We want the citizens to be safe. Not just be safe, but feel safe.
Right. I was going to say, let's distinguish the two.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't want you to feel safe, but you're in danger. I want you both. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm with you. Like I said, nobody's bought in more to RTCC than I have because of our relationship and how often I use y'all. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like I use y'all almost daily.
Yeah. And a lot of the people that realize what we can do are using us daily, and we're overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed with people now, and not only that, we are overwhelming the people that we're trying to call.
Right. I honestly get mad when y'all are wrapped up because I feel like I've earned priority. I'm like, listen, motherfuckers, I just called y'all yesterday, and we caught this ag assault dude who was stealing, out of cars and houses. Because I deal with property crimes, and so what are you doing? Cheating on me with?
I've had to do that. I've got to. So there's another guy. He works on West Side, and I've had to tell him before, and love him to death. He's great. He uses every day, and he's super responsive. When we see something, we call him. We're like, dude, go over here and do this.
Is you go to?
And he called me one day, and he's like, hey man, I need this. I'm like, dude, I can't help you right now. Because we were like in the middle of like a double shooting or something. And when it's something like that, it's all hands on deck.
Right.
I mean, we are reviewing so many cameras because what we do in that situation, like, okay, we got a shooting, call the officer.
Yeah.
What do you got? And we're doing this. We're reaching out to them on scene, and they know they're comfortable with us now. They're like, okay, this is what I got. I got a white car, and it had a bumper sticker in the back right hand corner.
The one unique feature.
That's all we need.
Yeah.
That's literally all we need. We're like, cool, we'll find it for you. Give us 10 minutes. And we will all start reviewing cameras. Mm-hmm. And the other piece of technology that we have that we can talk about, like license plate readers.
Right. Yeah.
And we can start reviewing all this information and getting that information. And there have been times where we have just taken that little tiny bit of information that they've given us, and we was like, all right, here's your plate, and here's where it's parked right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
In like 10 minutes.
Right.
And they're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, go here right now. Here's where he is. Oh, he's getting out of his car right now.
And how would that have happened? How would that have transpired prior to RTCC? It wouldn't.
It wouldn't have.
How many of those cases go unsolved?
A lot.
A lot.
I mean, it's like that the first 48 or whatever. Mm-hmm. The odds are going down every hour that passes.
So to give people a little bit perspective, my very first shooting that I worked as a detective, I had video from a Ring doorbell. I could see I had 3 shooters. I saw 2 semi-automatic rifles, and I saw a handgun. It's in an area that is pretty populated, you know. You guys did have RTCC cameras near it, not where I needed it. And I had a block full of random people that had some sort of security system, whether it was a Ring doorbell or Arlo or whatever it was. I never solved it. Never solved it. And that's with having RTCC. So
what year was it?
2021? So 2019. Yeah.
I would say our capability has expanded so much in the last 2 years that we could solve that case.
I think we had maybe 5 to 10 RTCC cameras or flat cameras or whatever it was, cameras that you guys had control over. So, and that still bothers me to this day that I couldn't do anything on that case because, you know, it was my first shooting, and they used an AK, they used a .223, so probably like an AR-15, and a 9mm handgun. And through the investigation, I learned, I can't say with 100% certainty, but I think they targeted the wrong house. It was a prominent elderly couple, I say couple, 2 sisters who had been in this area for generations. You know, they were a pillar of the community. I wanted to help them. And I did everything I could, knocked on every single door, got all the video feed I could get, and I couldn't find a good lit video of the car. But today, we're only talking a year. In a year, you've changed a case from unsolvable that deserves to be solved. Nobody was hurt in my shooting, by the way. But I just took exception to it just because of who my victim was. Right. And I shouldn't put a hierarchy on victims. I know that.
But we're human.
I'm a human. And when you're going after somebody that's a pillar of the community and they're elderly, I got a soft spot, you know. That, you know, and I'm not saying I'm going to take it any different if it was a young person, but damn it, I worked hard on that case and I got nowhere. And I failed. As a detective, I failed. And with y'all.
Which happens.
It does. And I want people to understand that, like, it's not CSI. The CSI effect. We don't solve all these cases. No. And
cases die because of a term called lack of an investigative lead.
Yeah. And with you guys now, like I said, just in a year, I could have solved that case more than likely.
The license plate camera readers are what have changed the game for us.
Especially, and I know the area now in which y'all cover, it would have been solved.
Yeah. So there is no, for those of you looking to integrate technology into your departments or start a real-time crime center or whatever it is, there is no greater 1-2 punch combo than a combination of surveillance cameras and license plate reader cameras. There is nothing that compares to that.
But what if the license plate doesn't belong to the vehicle?
Doesn't matter. We've solved those too.
I know. I like that. I know.
Doesn't matter.
So any of you criminals out there like, well, just change the license plate. Nope.
We're going to get you.
Doesn't help. So, all right. So, okay. So, benefits to citizens. So,
I want to back up real fast.
Okay.
Real
it's your
quick.
show. Your show, boss.
Not to throw you off. It is actually your show.
Okay.
But you brought something up, and I want to, since you brought it up, and it falls in line with the whole technology that we're using and the whole concept of using technology to help the citizens.
Yeah.
There's something, when you look at stats, when we talked about statistics a little bit, there's something that jumps out when you look into it. And I don't know why nobody's talking about it. So residential burglaries, or just burglaries in general, okay?
Okay.
The FBI keeps up with those stats yearly, right? They collect all the burglary cases and they put them in a pile and they count them every single year, right?
Right.
If you look at burglary cases in the United States, every year from like 1997 or something, like you go way back.
Okay.
It's the same number every year. I mean, it's very close. It's like 2.1 million, 2.2 million, 2.1, 2.1, 2 million, 2.1 every single year.
Right.
It's like the same number.
So you're looking at a bar graph.
Yeah, you're like a bar graph or just numbers.
I never thought I'd mention a bar graph since like 8th grade. So I just want to say it.
And I'm trying not to bore your listeners here, but listen, stick with me.
You're failing. Keep going.
So it's the same number every year. It's the same number of burglaries. And then in 2013, it goes down to like 1.9 million. And then 2014, it's like 1.7. 2015, it's like 1.5.
You're talking nationwide.
Nationwide.
Okay.
The entire country. And then lower and lower and lower and lower. Like, it's a monumental drop in crime.
Okay.
And you're like, if you're a stat junkie like me and a cop at the same time, you're like, what happened here?
Yeah.
How did this happen? Why is nobody talking about this? It's a massive, yeah, exactly.
COVID.
Yeah, it's the fault of everything.
Yeah.
It's a massive drop in crime.
Right.
And a specific crime at that, which is unique.
Okay.
So me, naturally, I start thinking, why did that happen? We didn't get together as cops and get into a room at a conference and say, let's attack burglars.
Let's hammer burglaries.
Let's go after burglars in 2013, right? We didn't do that. We didn't do anything different. But you know what changed? Ring was invented in 2012.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, my house is surrounded by Ring.
And this isn't a pitch for Ring. I mean, I'm not saying that Ring was solely responsible for that.
But hey, Ring, if you're listening.
I'm not saying they're solely responsible for that.
Yeah.
But what they did was they made residential home security mainstream, affordable, and easy.
Super easy.
Super easy.
Because I'm an idiot and I figured it out.
And burglars thought, crap, there's this new invention out there that I'm going to be on video. Right?
Yeah.
So you've seen this monumental drop in this specific crime. Nothing else has really changed like that.
So RTCC is like, yes.
Now you're on my way.
Now you're on my way. I see what you're saying.
Okay, apply that concept to an entire city.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Are you with me now?
I'm with you now. Okay, I see where you're going.
Monumental drops in crime.
Right. Oh, man.
If you can get inside the criminal's head and make them think, I shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
Because they're either going to get me on video, they're going to pop out of nowhere and get me in my driveway because I just committed the crime. Mm-hmm. We have to put that in their heads.
Yeah. And I just want to say, it doesn't matter if you got your COVID mask on. We still figure out who you are. Yeah.
And it's tricky. It's tricky because at the same time, we have to be transparent with citizens and make them understand we are using this technology for good. We are not trying to turn this into your 1984 version of China where we spy on everything that you do.
We'll get into the cons.
We are not doing that.
Right.
But if we can get into the criminal's head and make them think that, then we've changed the profession.
Done our job.
We've changed the profession.
Yeah. Our job's to lower crime, to stop crime. If we can stop crime without ever having to put hands on somebody, I mean, I don't see a better benefit. Because what I want people to understand, I don't wake up in the morning and say, "Who am I going to mess up today? Who am I going to arrest today?" I don't want to. If I don't have to arrest anybody, oh my God, thank you. I want, what's that movie? Demolition Man. I want that. I want, like, personally,
The 3 seashells.
Yes, I want to know how to work the 3 seashells.
I don't know what that is.
I know. I don't think it's possible. But yeah, I mean, in all honesty, if I live in a world where I don't have to be a cop, that's awesome.
Yeah, be a firefighter where there's no fires.
Yeah,
that's great. That's a great job. We don't want crime to happen.
Right.
We don't. Yes, it's fun catching bad guys, but our dream scenario is to come to work and there is no crime.
Right. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, it would be.
Oh,
that's the goal.
Yep. But so okay, benefits to citizens. Obviously, their cops, crime gets lowered. Their cops have less to go wrong. I don't want to say that cops are out there doing the wrong thing or anything like that, but if I don't have to go after a crime, then that's the best. That's the win. That's the win. So, okay. What's the benefits to police? Just for the agency that has it.
I mean, your clearance rates,
okay,
they're going to go through the roof.
Okay.
Your capabilities with solving crimes or watching, keep an eye on these high crime areas. Mm-hmm. They're going to give you an unparalleled ability to address those issues like you've never had before.
Right.
So, I mean, I can't even get into the number of benefits that there are to police departments. It's going to improve your officer safety.
Yep.
It's going to, I can't even think of all of them. There's so many.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's the future. Everybody knows it's the future. So why aren't we moving harder towards that?
Right.
The equipment's there. The technology is already there.
Yeah.
Well, it's here now.
I think it's like anything. And it's not just police work. In my experience, everybody in a comfortable position that they're used to hates change.
Cops hate two things. And I bet you know what they are. What are the two things that cops hate the most? Change, and everything staying the same.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely.
That's what cops hate.
Yep. So you've got the benefits for the police, and you got the benefits for the citizens, which I think they're pretty obvious. The one thing a lot of people don't tend to talk about, the victims. Everybody looks at, well, what are the police doing? Well, how's it hurting the people? Or how's it benefiting the people? I want people to focus on the victims, because that's, for police that are worth their salt, that should be their mindset 24/7. When they're out doing their job, it's the victim.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first to admit, I've lost sight sometimes. I lose sight. I get cheetah chasing the prey type mindset. I'm like, I just got to catch this bad guy.
Because it's fun.
Because it's fun, and I'm not thinking of the victim,
right?
But I'm human, so refocus. I want to put that out there. Like, how is this benefiting the victims?
A lot of times they don't even know,
right?
And they may never know.
Yeah, and it's a lot like Intel. Our Intel guys, I like to call them the unsung heroes. You got SWAT, you got ZT or SRT or any of these specialized tactical units that benefit from Intel doing what they do. They go out there, they go undercover, they stay undercover, they lead these ass kickers to the right spot, and we catch the bad guy.
Key to the operations of our department.
Yes.
But unseen.
But nobody sees them, and nobody hears about them, and they don't get anything for it.
Crime centers are similar.
Which is typical for cops in general. They're out there, they do what they're supposed to do, that's their job, and they ain't getting any kudos, not necessarily. There are some that do when they go way above and beyond. You got your Matt Pierces out there that, got shot 6, 7, 8 times, however many times it was, and we still ended up getting the bad guy, and it was a real bad guy. And you got guys the outliers. The outliers are out there. Yeah. But in general, for the most part, police, and it's not why they sign up. It's awesome to help people, and they love doing it, but they're not out there for awards.
Yeah.
So your victims, or your people, these behind-the-scenes guys like your Intel people, RTCC is the same. They're back there. They're computer nerds, not necessarily like, I'm going to build this PC. I mean, like, they're data junkies, and they're in there. Yeah, and they're in there, and they're operating the way that they do, and nobody hears about it.
Yeah. Well, so good example. About, I guess it was 2 or 3 months ago. Actually, it may have been more than that. Had an officer, and it was a disturbance call at a convenience store. Pretty common call. Pulled up a camera, saw the guy that they were calling in on, and they were watching him on camera. It was, the call was holding, meaning there wasn't any police officers available to go basically address the problem.
Right.
But as they were watching, they saw this guy walk up to a guy sleeping on the ground. I guess I don't know if he's a homeless guy or if he was just passed out or whatever. Walk up to him, go through his pockets, and take his cell phone out of his pocket.
So he had no clue.
No clue. The guy on the ground had no clue. So what my RTCC officer did at that moment, he called the convenience store. He looked it up. He's got the phone number. They're like, so-and-so convenience store. He's like, hey, this is Officer so-and-so. The guy out there in the blue shirt, can you tell him to come in here so I can talk to him? Because he knew, there was so many calls holding that it wasn't going to be anytime soon.
An officer couldn't have got there.
No, it wasn't going to be anytime soon.
Okay.
He said, tell him to come in here, and then he has a phone call. I'm not making this up. This really happened.
Oh, my God.
It's just like, hang on.
It's like Minority Report.
So she calls him. He comes in. Hello? He's like, this is Officer so-and-so. I just watched you take that guy's cell phone out of his pocket. Go put it back right now.
Oh my! I would have been like, this is Jesus. I'm watching you.
But, of course, I mean, his mind is blown.
Right.
Like, what? He's like, go put it back in the pocket and leave the premises.
That's
because that's all it was. It was like, they want this guy gone.
Right.
And of course, he's probably never coming back there now.
Right.
But that goes back to the whole thing. I want them to know.
Yeah.
We're watching you. Don't steal from other people.
That's a good story.
But you know what? That victim probably doesn't even know. He was passed out.
Yeah.
He probably never even knew that happened.
Right. And
we had another thing.
Let's say he is homeless.
Yeah.
You just saved one of the most prized possessions he's got. I mean, my cell phone's one of the most prized possessions I have.
Yeah.
And I'm not homeless. So anyway.
2 weeks ago, we watch a guy illegally dumping. Okay. A big problem for cities.
Like taking a crap.
No. Get your head out of the gutter.
Oh, okay.
No, like dumping garbage or
okay.
or mattresses
My
or
bad.
furniture or whatever. Instead of taking it to where he's supposed to, they dump it on the side of the road or these cul-de-sacs or these areas where this
That's a big
happens.
pet peeve of mine.
It happens a lot.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, you may say it's a victimless crime, but it adds to the blight of the community.
Yeah.
So he saw this happening. The guy's dumping on the side of the road. Zooms on the license plate. Researches it. Gets the guy's cell phone number and calls him. And he goes, hello? And he's like, look up to your right. He's like, take the stuff that you just dumped and put it back in your car. Okay.
That's what we call discretion.
Discretion. I mean, so think about it. What is going to be more effective?
Yeah.
Going and arresting that guy for illegally dumping? Do you think that guy's going to illegally dump anymore?
He's at least going to think about it.
He's going to be like, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up because it gives a little more perspective on police that don't get to go put hands on people. So you've got that stigma that's a cop's drive is to put hands on people.
Yeah.
You had the opportunity to get somebody else to put hands on somebody illegally dumping, and you didn't. You decided to use discretion, which I've explained several times on the show that discretion is the most valuable thing that officers have, and it's diminishing, especially with cameras and all that stuff. Discretion is slowly going away, and that's not the fault of the officer, and I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but discretion is kind of getting squeezed on. So you had an offense that you could have hammered this guy for, at least civilly, and hit him with some hefty fines, really hit his pocket. And you chose to use discretion and hopefully prevent this guy from ever trying this again. So kudos. I mean, I think that's the spirit of the law.
Ultimately, it comes down to changing behavior.
Yeah.
We want to alter his behavior.
Yeah.
And it may be just some guy that illegally dumps once every 2 years. Okay, he's not a hardened criminal.
Yeah.
Or it could be somebody that goes out and tries to shoot people every week. Mm-hmm. We want to change the criminal behavior.
Yeah.
Right? That's the goal of cops.
Yep.
So it goes back to we don't want bad guys.
Yeah.
We don't want to put bad people in jail. We don't want anybody to go to jail. We
Right.
want them to not commit crimes.
Yes. Absolutely.
And that's the goal. And then you have no victims.
Yes.
And that's the big picture.
That's the big picture. I agree. So, okay. Seeing the benefits to citizens, the police, the victims. I don't really think we need to touch on the other agencies because I think we already kind of hit that. They've got the benefit of us communicating with them and them communicating with us when things flow into our city or vice versa, things flow out. We have those channels open. So there's cons to all of this. And in me personally, one of my big concerns is Big Brother. I'm a military guy. I swore to defend the Constitution. I swore to defend the Constitution as becoming a police officer. And in my opinion, there's a line. So what are the cons for the citizens with RTCC?
Well, it comes back to the whole perception thing. What are they doing with the technology?
Yeah.
The tools, and it's important to know, and for the general public and everybody to understand, the tools that we have, they're not doing anything specific that is new. It's just making the things that we are allowed to do and legally do easier.
Okay.
Now, where the line is on that, I don't know. I think
so. To ask you a question, things that we do normally, and using technology. So when I hear that, what I'm gathering from that is normally I watch for bad guys in public areas, typically, whether it's a street corner, a public street, a club, a convenience store, whatever it is. It's a public place, and that's where I tend to look for my bad guys because I'm not going in your house. Can't go in your personal house.
It's like fishing.
Right.
Why are you going to fish somewhere where there's no fish?
Right. So what you're saying is RTCC watches those same areas, but without the human eye being right there.
Yeah. There's four big hot button pieces of technology that's out there.
Okay.
And none of them do anything special that we haven't done for years.
Okay.
Okay. Cameras. Let's talk about cameras. I could put a camera up on a pole to watch this high crime area, or I can put a police officer in a car with binoculars or sitting right there to watch the same thing.
Right.
Both of them are the same thing. You're ultimately still just watching that spot, right? You're just using technology for one, which is a lot cheaper and easier. And you can watch 20 other spots at the same time with one officer.
Right. So it's a force multiplier.
Gotcha. Okay. So surveillance cameras, one big hot button. Number 2, facial recognition. Hot button topic. Okay. Can you, as a police officer, take a book of 5,000 mug shots and go through and just look? Say, well, this, and look, that kind of looks like my guy. Okay, let me keep going. That kind of looks like my guy. Okay, ooh, that really looks like my guy. Can you do that? No, I'm not saying you're writing a warrant on the guy. I'm not saying you're writing a warrant. I'm just saying, can you legally do that?
Yeah,
just look at faces and say,
for sure.
That kind of looks like it.
For sure. It's going to take me forever.
Yeah, it's going to take you forever.
And it's not going to be in any reasonable time.
And that's all facial recognition does. It just kind of narrows it down. We can't make an arrest on that.
And I'm biased. I may be biased on that.
Okay.
I may have it in my head like, I know he had this. I could be wrong. My memory could be messed up. Yeah. So
exactly.
My thought on that is facial recognition works in an unbiased manner.
It is. It's completely unbiased.
So,
and it works. Despite what you see in the news, it does work. Now, it's important to note it cannot and should never, ever be able to be used as the sole decision for writing a warrant.
Yes.
No.
And I've been told that by prosecutors. Like I have in my warrant, like this guy was recognized by facial recognition, and I had to tell him by other investigative means I was able to positively ID this guy, but that's what got me going down the path of this person. And
it gets you in the ballpark.
Yes.
And then you have to do the usual things that you do as a detective to say, okay, is this maybe my guy?
Right.
And then you start building these little pillars of information saying, okay, this is adding up. This is my guy, or it's not my guy. Eliminate.
Yeah. And little things that I do. So if you're wondering, Like, well, how do you know? How do we know that you're actually looking into this guy? I'll pull up things like, what's my crime? Okay, it's a BMV. Here's the guy that they say it could be. I'll look at that guy's criminal history. He's got this big slew of BMV charges. Okay, that still doesn't mean that's my guy.
Burglary of vehicle.
Yeah, BMV, burglary of motor vehicle. Yes. So, thank you. Assist. And then I go farther. Then I find video footage. Okay, here's the video footage. Here's the facial recognition of this guy. Okay, cool. Let me pull up his license picture. Okay, it's a license picture. Oh, there's a scar above the eyebrow right here. Boom. And I start making all these links. So that's how I would use it. I just keep putting things together. And it's not my job to prove 100% that this guy did it. It's just me to get probable cause. I need to show 51% or higher that it's more than likely this dude. Now, I'm going to try to get as close to 100% as I can.
Right.
So for citizens out there, if you're like, you just got to get half, well, that's BS. I agree with you. I shouldn't settle for half. I should settle for 80, 90%. Like if I can prove 80, 90%, let's at least get a trial going or a court case, or let the prosecutor get in there and start working his end of the deal. So sorry, I get down rabbit holes.
No, you're good. You're good. I enjoy going down your rabbit holes.
Yes. So
yeah, I understand it's a hot button topic. I understand a lot of people are not comfortable with it. And I know that there are areas, and it's important for guys like me and girls like me in my position to understand society's concerns with those things.
Okay.
I think it's important.
So what are the concerns, and what do they think we're going to use facial recognition for?
They probably think that we're out, watching them on all of our cameras and identifying every single person in a crowd.
Okay. So they're just worried mostly about privacy invasion. Invasion of privacy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
Okay.
They're worried about their privacy being invaded.
So basically you guys are using this when you are investigating something that's already occurred.
Yes.
It's not just, hey, let's look at that guy. Let's see who he is.
No.
You don't just pick people out like that?
No.
Okay. So, how about license plates?
License plates. So license plate, for those of you that don't know, license plate reading cameras, they're not typical cameras. They're cameras that they have software embedded in them to where, like, if a vehicle passes, it will say, okay, that's a vehicle, that's the license plate, and it will read it for us and then check it against a database for wanted, stolen cars, all kind of different things. Is it completely legal for a police officer to sit on the side of the road and write down every license plate that passes by him?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's in a public place.
It's in a public place.
Yeah.
Anybody can do that. Any citizen can do that.
Right.
Totally allowed. The cameras just make it easier.
Okay.
So, we're talking about legality. That's 3. That's your 3 hot button. Number 4 is drones.
Okay.
So, it's long been established that police can get up in the air, look down, investigate cases, see what's going on in terms of hot calls, do surveillance on vehicles that are known and attached to criminal offenses, et cetera, et cetera. We call them helicopters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So completely allowed. Drones just make it easier.
Right.
So these hot button topics, these hot button pieces of technology, they don't change anything. They don't give us a capability that we have never had. It just makes the things that we do easier.
Okay. Fair enough. So we've got drones, license plate readers, facial recognition, and what was the fourth?
Surveillance cameras.
Surveillance cameras. So, okay. So,
but yes, it's
the line.
Yes.
The line that you all are drawing from what I've got from what you're saying is investigating a crime.
Yes.
That's the line.
Absolutely.
We're not arbitrarily just searching things up. And even if you wanted to, there's a data trail. Correct?
Yeah.
There's a data trail on everything that we're using. So if...
Talking about internal auditing.
Yes. Okay. So with that said, what is the safety measure that... Can you guys tweak that auditing trail?
Yeah, it's and as we expand our capabilities, yes, I think that society's going to expect us to have more auditing, more oversight, essentially.
Right. Kind of like the use of force, citizen review board.
I think it's
like
understandable. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think, and I personally, people are probably going to freak out when I say this, but I think that there's probably should be a police technology civilian committee.
Okay. Hey.
that are picked from the community, and so we explain to them, this is the tools that we have.
Mm-hmm.
This is how we use it. Now go explain it to everybody else.
Right. Hey.
I mean, we'll help. We'll explain things.
And I agree that is something that it isn't police motivated. RTCC, like I told you, we agree to disagree. I think if you're going to work in RTCC, you should be a cop. It's just the way I think. But for what you're talking about, the auditing side of things, you could be anybody. As long as you got the computer skill set, like, it's an audit. It's really, you're just looking for certain things. You're looking to make sure there's nobody abusing the system.
Yeah, it needs to be somebody at a supervisory level that has established trust, obviously, but there needs to be, multiple levels of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with
I
that
think
too.
I think
I agree.
everybody is fine with that.
I agree. If you're not, you're probably up to something.
Exactly. What is it? It's like if you're not up to no good, what do you have to hide?
Checks and balances. I like checks and balances. So
yes, and that is ultimately what separates us from places like China, right?
Right.
Because that's a lot. Like everybody always says, well, then we don't want to be like China. They've got cameras everywhere, right?
Yeah.
It's a police state.
Yep.
They probably don't have any checks and balances over there. It's completely government controlled.
Right. So what's preventing us from getting to that level?
I mean, just politicians for one.
Okay.
General public.
Okay.
But I think that officers like you and I, almost everyone that I've met would agree with us.
Yeah.
We have our own mental checks and balances. Yeah. We're citizens too.
Yes.
So we understand the need for that, and we don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're not going to go out and cross these invisible lines and just go crazy with these things.
Yeah.
With these pieces of technology, that's not going to happen.
Yep. I think the concern comes from cops have screwed up in the past. There's been corrupt cops, and to act like it, like you're saying, it could never happen. Well, maybe it could. Maybe
sure.
we could get.
Well, sure, it could happen.
But I'm hoping the checks and balances and system will catch that type of behavior.
Yes.
And the way our RTCC works, where we work, it's there's multiple people. I mean, there's nobody ever working solo and no oversight. Yeah. So people going in there to abuse it and check on their ex-baby mamas or whatever it is they're going to use it to mess around with.
But see, that's not unique to Real-Time Crime Center. I mean, any officer could do that.
Yes.
Right now, they can abuse the databases that they have, and they could go out and do something wrong. Yeah. That really doesn't have any bearing or anything to do with a Real-Time Crime Center.
Correct.
So it just would give them a different location that they could do that from.
But citizens don't know that.
Yes.
So
citizens don't know.
You just cleared it up.
Okay.
So, okay. So that's the cons for citizens. Because, I mean, it's a valid concern.
Absolutely.
I don't want...
And we need to tackle it head on.
Yes.
We need to get ahead of it before it becomes an issue. We don't want them coming to us saying, hold on.
Yeah.
We need to go to them and say, come in.
Right. And that's, I think, the benefit of talking about it right now is I want people to understand I got the same damn concern. I don't want Big Brother. I don't. Mm-hmm. I want it to be as limited as possible. So if we're going to use it, just like you explained, I want it to be doing all the same things that I would be doing as a police officer. I don't want you looking into my backyard.
Yeah.
I don't want you looking into my house. I don't want you hearing what I'm saying in my house. But in a public area, I mean,
you are already under surveillance.
Yeah, I don't really have an argument there. So I don't want you tapping into my phone without warrants and none of any of that. So
yes, nobody does.
Yeah. So that's the point that I wanted to bring up with this is like me as a police officer, I don't want that. I don't want to invade your privacy, and I don't want my privacy invaded either. So I think it's a fair it's a fair compromise.
I don't know any police officers that would disagree.
Right.
I don't know.
Yep. I don't know them either.
I'm sure they're out there somewhere, but I don't know any.
Yeah. So, okay. So citizens, Big Brother, that's a con. That's what we were looking into. Okay. So cons for police officers.
We're experiencing that now.
Okay.
So we are overwhelming patrol officers, specialized officers, because our capabilities have gotten so great with spotting felonies.
Right.
I mean, just crimes that we don't have enough police officers out there to respond.
Right.
We don't.
So you're kind of making the argument that you've seen a felony conducted as a police officer. Mm-hmm. And what you're, and I don't know it's any different across the nation, not just in a city or a state. If you see a felony, you shall act. In a sense, right?
If you can. Yeah.
If you can.
If you're capable, you're supposed to, yes.
Yeah, you're supposed to act. You can't ignore a felony.
Yeah.
And you've seen so many, but you don't have the bodies to act on.
We don't have the ability. No. It's overwhelming.
Right. And you stress out. You could possibly stress out officers if you keep jumping on the...
And we are. I know we are. Because I've had comments, I've had officers saying, we're kind of busy out here.
Right.
I mean, can y'all like tone it down a little?
Right.
It's like, and I have to remind them, I'm like, look, you don't have to act on what we're telling you.
But we have to tell you.
We're going to tell you. It's up to y'all to do what you want to do. If you're busy, if you've got 20 calls holding, because the citizens come first.
Right.
Everybody understands that. If there's 20 different calls holding that are 40 minutes old and they need assistance. Yeah. Okay, well, we have to take that into consideration.
But here's a dilemma. You got somebody calling about a noise complaint. Their complaint is valid, but you just saw somebody stab someone.
Well, that's different. I'm
being extreme.
Yes.
But I'm saying.
And we have seen stuff like that.
Right.
The policy that I have set in the crime center, and I've said broadcast everything you say. When I say broadcast, I'm like either send a message over the computer to everybody in that area. Yeah. Or get on the radio. Hey, I see a guy over here at this high crime location dealing narcotics. Right. Okay. That's a broadcast. We're not saying go out there and do something about it. Right. If anybody's available, we know you're busy. There it is. Yeah. If we see a guy shooting somebody, which we've seen, right, then that's mandatory. Send an officer out there right now. Okay. So anything violent crime related.
So I was being too extreme.
No, you weren't being too extreme. Okay. That's happened. Anything that has the ability to become a violent crime or is a violent crime in progress. Okay. I have told them, and they understand it, they all agree, dispatch an officer. Don't care how busy we are. Right. Send them.
Fair enough. Okay. So, where was I going with that? Okay, so it's too many calls. Yes. Too many things being seen by RTCC, and you just don't have the bodies to affect the crime. So, what else, is there any other negatives? One of the things that I was thinking of earlier when we were talking is, are we going to create a dependency? Are we going to lose cops that have that street ability because they're getting too dependent on y'all?
I don't think so. No? Because they still have to investigate the crime. They still have to go through the steps of showing up and then doing the things that they do. You may be referring to traditional proactive policing. Yeah. Where a 20-year officer that has had all these experiences, right, has developed all this information in his head, can literally just see a situation and say, something's not right here, right? Yeah. So, honestly, I think that's going away. I think it is. I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent, but with what has been occurring the last 2 years in this country, yeah, proactive policing, it's on its last leg. Yeah. Is it not?
I from what I've seen, yes. Yeah. I would agree. I'm one of the few units where I work. We still do all old school police work.
This isn't so much,
but for patrol,
I'm not so much talking about the specialized units. Yes, where that's their sole purpose.
But patrol
officers,
absolutely,
proactive police, and it's not just our city. I would say it's every city.
Most patrols sit back and they wait for their calls.
And you want to talk about the elephant in the room about why crime is out of control? That's your reason. Yeah. I don't think it's COVID. Everybody's saying it's COVID that these massive crime spikes are occurring. I think COVID affected intimate partner violence, domestic disturbances.
Right. They're home more.
Yes.
You're bound to drink at home or whatever it is, you know. And,
yes. But I think in the grand scheme of things, the reason why violent crime is so astronomically high now is because cops aren't being proactive anymore.
Yeah.
So we have to give them a new way to be proactive.
I got you.
And you do it through technology.
Yeah. I'm okay with it because like you said, you've got so much that you're finding that cops, we can't even keep up with ourselves.
It's easier to explain. So take that 25-year officer and he sees a guy walking down the street and he's like, something's not right here.
Yeah.
Just because of his instincts, you know, and he goes and he starts developing his investigation the way it was historically done over the last 20 or 30 years.
Right.
Hey man, come here, let me talk to you for a second. You know, and he does these things and say that goes south and something bad happens.
Right.
It's difficult to explain why did you stop him?
Yeah.
Why did you stop the guy to begin with? You know?
Yeah.
So where does our brain go? Where does the media go? You know, depending on the situation.
Right.
You know, were you biased towards that person?
Yeah.
No, I'm a 25-year officer and, you know, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Well, they don't want to hear that. They don't understand that.
Or you can't even articulate it. You just know.
Exactly.
Your instinct. You just know. And it's.
And again, we're not arresting people.
Yeah, right.
It's just, it's part of the process. But yes, these things are real. I mean, officers have instincts and they can very quickly analyze the situation and know that something is not right.
Yeah. Agreed.
You're experienced officers. But with technology, we're on a camera. That guy has got a gun in his pocket, dealing drugs. He's at a store where you can't do any of that. Obviously, I mean, they're selling booze there.
Yeah.
That's easy to explain.
Right.
It's very easy to explain. Here's the video. Here's where the guy pulled a gun out, and you know.
Yeah.
So we're giving officers new ways to be proactive.
Yeah,
is important.
And I think that's a fun thing to talk about with police work is citizens have a standard that gets changed. Rodney King, they needed cameras in the cars. We adapted. Yep, okay, we agree. Cameras in the cars. So you get cameras in the cars. And then move a little bit farther forward, and they're like, all right, this baton thing is a little much. We need some different things. Pepper spray, tasers. All right, you guys got tasers, cool. All right, Michael Brown happens. Ends up being a false narrative because one of the bad guys that lived told that he lied. But the pushback was for a good cause. Body cameras, which I am a sole believer in.
Absolutely.
Love body cameras.
Yes. Give us more.
Give us more, please. Give us one that lasts. The batteries suck. Anyway, so body cameras. So what I'm getting at is it's just this constant, like, here's our needs. This is why. Do it. Cops are like, okay, we hate change because now we got to learn something new, but you're not wrong, so we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And we do it. And I think the biggest pushback from cops usually is it's the change. It's not that what you think, what you're saying is wrong. We're all about it. It's like, damn it, now I got to learn something new. Yeah. And you get comfortable in a job, and I think anybody can relate. I don't just think it's police, but you get comfortable in a job, and you get really good at what you're doing. Yeah. And now
nobody wants a wrench thrown into it.
Yeah, now I'm going to look dumb because I am dumb, and I'm going to look dumb on camera because I don't know how to use it.
Yeah,
so
that's how you identify your best officers.
Right.
If they're saying, cool, I'm going to try that, and I'm going to really try that.
Yeah.
Those are your best police officers.
Oh, yeah. Glass half full guys, man. I love them. Yeah. So, okay. So, cons for police kids or any others that you can think of other than that? I mean, I was kind of, it's not that I think cops will get dependent on it necessarily. I'm foreseeing that being an issue.
I think it's a reality that people are just going to have to accept.
Okay.
You know, like you're talking about body cameras. The next level, the next stage of the crime centers, you know, that we're at, the next stage that we're at is live streaming.
Right.
So we can remote in. We can do that
already
right now.
Yeah.
Now we don't yet,
right.
But it's coming.
Yeah.
And it's a freight train that nobody's going to stop. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, whoa, a lot of officers. They're going to be like, oh, no, I don't want you live streaming because they don't want the supervisor to sit in his office and critique everything they're doing in real time.
Right.
So there has to be policies put in place to prevent that ahead of time.
Yeah. I think part of the problem with the live streaming is there's a delay. And you can't. So anybody out there is like, well, I think people should be making command decisions, from a frame of mind that's not wrapped up into a situation. I'm going to tell you straight up that you cannot be making calls from a desk in live time for an officer that's on scene.
No. And there should be policies written down.
Written to protect.
Firmly.
Yes.
Put in stone.
I agree.
Saying you cannot do this.
I know Boston PD, their citizens got pissed off at them because they were denying the body cameras at first, and it had nothing to do with the cameras. It had everything to do with they wanted policies in place. They were like, from my understanding, is their department was like, here's the body cameras, wear them.
Yeah.
And they're like,
what protections do I have?
We're going to write policy, but you wear them now.
Yeah.
And they're like, no.
And nobody would be okay with that.
No.
I mean, forget the cop profession. Put it into any profession.
Any profession.
Give them something that is profession altering.
Yeah.
With no guidelines.
Yes. Yep.
It's not going to happen without a lot of pushback.
And I think that's a reasonable expectation.
Yes.
So, okay. Negatives, citizens, negatives, police. What else I got written down over there?
I can't read your chicken scratch.
I can't. My light. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read my own writing. This light is really blinding me. What's the... Okay. I totally just ripped my headphone.
You're going to have to cut all this out.
So let me fix that real quick. I love it. So, where are we headed? Where are we headed with RTCC? I mean, it's crazy what we've already accomplished, but where are we heading with that?
So, like I said, I think that we personally are ahead in that category. I know there's a lot of different agencies that are exploring it because I get the emails and I get the phone calls from other agencies saying, hey, we're thinking about doing this. Where do we start? And I have a little bit of a unique perspective on that because I started it as a police officer. And, I'm not saying I built it to what it is because there were other people that built it. So I'm not saying I'm the one that built the whole thing. Right. I started the ball rolling, and then I came in later after other people had got it kind of to a certain level, and then we got to another level. So, where we're going, like I said, I think every agency, they're going to embrace this technology because it's so super effective. And as we keep telling other agencies, look, we're having all this massive success, they're going to start doing it. I think we're one. I don't know if you say a study or one situation or whatever away from basically pushing that snowball over the edge to start the avalanche of, oh, we got to do this. Everybody does it,
Yeah.
So I don't know what it's going to take. It could be a city such as the one that we're in, seeing everybody around them at these massive crime spikes, and then we're like flat or go down.
Yeah.
Because then people are going to be like, what did they do?
What are they doing different?
What are they doing different? Like we're way up here and they're, 200,000 people bigger than us, yet their crime is here. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen. I haven't seen the numbers. I think it's still too much in its infancy to see how much that's going to be effective.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so future wise, I mean, it is the future. Nobody denies it.
Yeah.
Having a controlled center, a controlled point for technology and pushing it out and basically using it.
So how about technology though? Like I'll tell you what I've heard of. I've heard that we're possibly going to have drones that can deploy certain spots. Now this is just me seeing stuff on the internet. It has nothing to do with what I've ever talked about with y'all.
Photo kite.
Photo kite?
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
Free publicity. So it's, if you're talking about deploying drones in a specific spot, it's a tethered drone.
Oh, okay.
So
rather than just being free flying,
and yeah. So and I'm not speaking educating. I don't know all the drone laws. I'm not into drones, so I see the distance with how they're used.
Yeah,
I'm not super familiar with the laws and stuff, but the way I understand it, it's not actually considered a drone because it's tethered. and you can just deploy it and it can stay up 24 hours a day.
Ooh.
So think about that.
How would it stay up 24 hours a day? How's it staying up?
Because it's tethered.
Oh, by like electricity.
Yeah.
Oh.
To like a home base.
Bad guys are going to shoot at it.
You know, you say that, and it's funny you bring that up. And I was waiting on you to bring that up. I get that all the time, especially when I say I want people to know where the cameras are.
Right.
I'm good with people knowing. Like other cities, they mark their cameras with like big bright lights, like red and blue flashlights.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm good with that because again, it goes back to the whole. I want the criminals to know it's there.
Yeah.
I want them to know that we're watching. And the first thing that people say when I say I want bad guys to know where they're at, they're going to shoot them out, but they don't. They know they're there. They know we're watching.
Okay.
But it's an imaginary problem that cops, because of our perception of criminals, they're just going to naturally shoot it out.
Yeah.
Well, they don't.
Huh. Okay.
I mean, has it happened? It's happened.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen very often.
Okay.
And we catch them anyway.
Gotcha.
We're going to catch you if you do it.
I was going to say, in the military and up in Michigan where I was a cop, we had this, I can't remember what the system was called, but if a gunshot went off,
shot spotter,
it could check. I don't think that was the name for us, but I'm sure there's different companies.
That's the
concept of it. Yeah, is that it just tracks where these gunshots and stuff go off.
Yeah, it triangulates where the shot comes from.
Yeah, and so where we're at, one of the first calls that I ever worked with y'all was somebody who was off shooting a gun. You guys saw them on camera and were able to track him. He wasn't shooting at anybody in particular. He was just out shooting a gun into a field in the city. And we ended up finding him, getting him pulled over. You guys led us right to him. But that's another piece of technology that I was thinking of is tracking gunshots.
Yeah. So
it's probably kind of dated, I guess, now. Is it necessary?
I hate to talk bad about stuff. Like, so the technology does work. It does work. And I'm sure I'm going to get tons of hate for this.
No, only about 145 people, because that's about as many subscribers I've had. So you're not going to get a whole lot of hate. Yeah.
For now. I am very big on bang for your buck. Okay. So spending your money as wisely as you possibly can.
Okay.
And I see us using surveillance cameras, and we're seeing felonies on view that we don't have police officers to go to.
Okay.
I'm like, that's a dude committing a felony right there. He's got a gun and he's at a store and he's got dope. I don't have any police officers I can call.
Okay.
Right. So if I deploy 20 or 30 gunshot detections in an area and we hear shots, what's that going to do for me?
I see what you're saying.
I can't find officers. Now, that may not be true for other agencies that have enough officers. I'm just speaking for our agency.
Right. Which will go nameless.
Nameless.
Yes. Yeah. Voldemort.
Yeah. So I'm just speaking for our agency in terms of I can't get the police officers to go to this thing that I see.
Right.
Why am I going to spend all this money to say there's a gunshot that happened right here? They're not going to go out there. I don't have anybody.
You're right. Smart.
So I think, I'm not saying the technology doesn't work, because it does work.
Okay.
I know it works.
But if you're going to put your money into something, you want more bodies.
More bodies.
Okay.
And technology that I know can give me the most bang for my buck.
Okay.
Which to me is
cameras.
And license plate readers.
I would agree. Yep. So, okay. Let's see. Other departments. Is there anything from other departments that you've seen you're like, we need to get that?
Drones. We're behind the drone game considerably.
Okay. Yeah. I've actually, I've used my Ring 3 times. I've caught a hit and run suspect. I've caught 2 car burglars. Always the same time of night, 1 to 2:30 in the morning. And
you should take the stuff out of your car.
They didn't get in. My doors were locked.
It wasn't yours?
No, but they tried. So the ring goes off and they pull down the handle. But one guy, I go out. I was out there pretty quick, but I threw what police stuff I had on, and I I go down the street and
Did you have your belt and your underwear on? Just tell me that you didn't do that.
no, I didn't. I actually had my pants on.
Okay,
So, yeah. So go down the street. Long story short, I see a car rocking back and forth. This is one thing he did that I didn't expect. He shut the door behind him while he was inside. I didn't see that coming. So I almost overlooked him. I'm looking around, and then I'm like, well, shit, where'd he go? He's gone. So I was literally starting to walk back to call the police, which I should have done before. Again, cheetah mindset. I was like, I catch a bad guy, you know. So see the car rocking back and forth, and he gets out, and all I had with me was my gun. I'm like, show me your hands. So he does. Shows me his hands. And I'm like, all right, his hands are empty. All right, get on the ground. He gets down, but he does the track stance. Yeah. And he's gone. I'm like, dang it.
So here you are in your underwear with your belt.
Yeah. So I've got nothing. So I go running after him. He goes around a corner. It's a blind corner. I'm like, all right, he wins. He's gone. So I call the police. They get out there. You've seen my neighborhood. There's not a lot of places for him to go. The police got there like that. And all of a sudden, two of their guys pop their trunks, and they got two drones up in the sky. And I'm like, what the hell? I've never even seen that before. So I'm there watching them do their thing. And sure as shit, he's laying down in a creek bed trying to hide. And they've got night vision and infrared or whatever it is.
Yeah, we're lacking in that area.
Yeah. So I see it highly beneficial to have drone units.
Yeah. Well, I think, and it's funny you mentioned that because I've actually thought along those same lines, not just a drone unit, but a technology unit, a technology response unit.
Yeah.
That can respond to cameras, things that we see on camera, be a support unit for drones, in addition to responding to the license plate reader hits that we get.
You want to know one little thing that I think would be amazing to have just as a detective? I have to deal with other places' security cameras all the time to get their footage and review their footage. I have no idea.
We're working on that.
I have no idea what I'm doing, really.
I know. Yeah, we're working on that.
That is
I've had meetings on that.
That is a big pet peeve. You get there and you're like, oh my God, you have no security system I've ever dealt with, or I've dealt with very little, and now I got to figure out how to navigate it.
This is an entirely different podcast you're talking about.
Yeah.
So if you look up Detroit, they started a project called Project Greenlight.
Okay.
And it was basically getting these certain areas to get these cameras that feed directly to the real-time crime center.
Okay.
That were bought and paid for by the businesses.
Yeah.
Because there's no expectation of privacy in an open business.
Yeah.
And in turn, they get police watching their business.
Okay.
24 hours a day. Even when they're closed.
That's awesome.
Somebody's breaking in. We're working on that now. That's the direction that most major cities are going to. They're going towards this concept of these public-private partnerships. It's a mouthful. I said it right. Dallas Starlight. They're starting one.
Okay.
A lot of agencies are doing that. We're working on it. I think it'll come to fruition in the next 6 months.
Oh, damn, that's quick. Okay. Anything for the other agencies? Any words of advice? Anything that if you had to have some departing thoughts on?
Yes. When you are developing your real-time crime center, don't worry about what it looks like. I see far too many people saying, I've got to get this $250,000 grant to make it look like a NASA control center, right?
Okay.
I started as a police officer at a cubicle desk with a dual screen TV, computer monitor, 2 radios, and a cell phone. That's it.
Yeah.
I could take every one of my officers in the crime center, put them in any office you can think. I could put them in a Connex trailer. I could put them in a detective office. It doesn't matter where I put them, and they would be as effective in that capability, in that physical location, than they would be in the crime center.
Okay.
So if you're looking at starting a real-time crime center, don't worry about the show. Start with the people. Go out and find that guy that's super aggressive in terms of, not like with bad guys, but super aggressive in terms of he doesn't have an off button. He wants to know everything. He wants to get involved with everything. He's awesome at figuring things out. Every agency has those guys. Go find those guys and say, we're going to put you in here and we're going to start something.
Sell
them on it.
Okay.
And then build around that.
Yeah.
Because there's too many people. They get the grant. They put up the big video walls. It looks awesome. You walk in there, you're like, wow, this is amazing. And then you look at the people, and what are they doing? They don't know.
Yeah.
They're like, we're waiting on people to call us. That's not what a real-time crime center should be.
Yeah.
Get in there and figure things out. Be proactive. Call the officers.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I think we're assisting on 50,000 calls a year right now.
Dang.
50,000 calls.
It's incredible. Yeah. So with that, part of the thing that I want to suggest on in my experience, and I got this from being an academy instructor, is noticing the gaps in training. So like you said, find that guy. If you're just starting from scratch, keep a log how you started. You're only going to help your sister agencies that surround you, or you're only going to help the next guy that comes in and has to pick up the torch behind you. Mm-hmm. So it's one of the things that I'm kind of focusing on right now as a detective is I'm like, yeah, there's a manual of like expectations, but there's not a, you know how it is. I get trained by a really seasoned detective and I got awesome training, but then this other guy, he got trained by another detective that's not so motivated. And his training was garbage, but there's no standardization. So when you got somebody that's creating something from the ground up like y'all did, it's awesome if you're keeping track of that and you can pass that torch on. And I'm not saying you guys did or didn't do that.
No, I failed in that area. I'm not. I'll be open with it and say that.
Yeah, you suck.
And it's because.
Yeah,
that's true too. And honestly, and it's not an excuse, but it is a good excuse. I am so busy.
Yeah.
Doing the things that I do and trying to put in motion.
I've seen it.
The things that we do, and meeting with people. And coming up with these new things, and it's very time consuming.
Yeah.
And honestly, what I need to do is hold training classes so officers, detectives, supervisors, everybody from the ground up understand this is how you use technology-driven policing.
Yeah.
This is why you are important, Officer Smith.
Yeah.
And how you can help get into the mind of that bad guy, because it doesn't matter if he knows the camera's there.
Yeah.
But he can do what he does all day, every day, and nobody ever goes over there to confront him. The camera's useless.
Right.
You have to have an enforcement aspect of that to where he knows. It's like the hot stove, in the hot stove concept. Have you heard of that?
No.
So if you, it's I can't remember who came up with it, but you know, the whole theory revolves around if you touch a hot stove, it immediately burns you.
Right.
And so you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. Well, you have to make the criminals think the same thing.
Okay.
If I commit a crime, it's like a hot stove. Oh, I'm not going to do that again.
Right.
Because the police showed up right away.
Yep. Can't let it just heat up slowly.
But without the police officers on the street understanding that whole concept and how they fit in, what we do is useless without them.
Right. Okay. So you need somebody ready for the action.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like a technology team.
Okay. So overall, I'm a believer. So the RTCC, I think the benefits highly outweigh the cons. Yes, the big brother aspect is something we got to keep in check. And like you said, we got the self-accountability on that. But I think a fair trade is some sort of civilian oversight on that even.
Yeah.
If that makes the citizens feel better about it, then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
If that makes them feel better about it. Because, like I said, we're in the business of catching bad guys and making them feel safe and not having victims. So, whatever. It's no different than body cameras to me.
It's a natural part of the evolution for what we're doing.
Police work is nonstop progressing. I mean, it's always changing. And if you're not, yes, like I said, we don't like change necessarily unless we get comfortable. But right now we're in this information overload cycle of learning a new way to police. And you said it's in infancy, and I agree with you. So we're learning, we're catching up, and I think we're heading in the right path. And I think the proof's in the pudding. Like you said, we can't even keep up with our success.
Not even close.
We can't keep up with our success. Hear that, people? We cannot keep up with our success. That's awesome. because that is not how police work has notoriously been. You know, if you've ever had your stuff stolen, think about that. How many of y'all had your stuff stolen and you didn't hear anything back about it? This guy and the technology that they've got out there is going to significantly increase that. There's nothing better than getting your stuff back. There's nothing better than finding somebody that hurt your loved one. There's nothing better than finding a bad guy that's hurting your community.
That's why we do what we do.
That's why we do what we do. So with that said, brother, you got anything else you want to talk about? You got any shout outs? Anything you want to promote? Anything coming down the line?
No, I don't.
No?
Shout out to your podcast. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll give it a listen. This is good stuff.
I'm hoping the audio is good.
You have the face for radio.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, I'm really hoping with all the things that we've changed. He can attest right now. You guys can't see it, but I have some ghetto lighting going on. I've got like 4 desk lamps going.
I can barely see. It's like right in my face.
Yeah. So I got like 4 desk lamps going. I still have the phone and the iPad and the webcam.
Hey man, whatever works.
Yeah, it's working for now. I love the direction that this is headed. I've seen a lot of good feedback, and I know I've said this before, but guys, I really believe in what I'm doing, and I hope my inner self is coming out, and people, you know, you get attracted to people that are trying to be genuine. So
well, I can be honest with you. I would not be here unless I believed in what you're doing.
Well, thank you. So like I said,
because it's easy to spin the things that we do and the things that we know
right
into a bad thing.
Right.
But people like you understand it.
Yes.
And you're willing to say, here it is on the table. It's all right there.
Yes.
So keep doing what you're doing and
And
support this guy.
Thank you.
Support this guy.
And guys, this is all come out of my own pocket. Unfortunately, to my wife, she's hating me right now. So if you don't want her to kill me, please, I'm looking for sponsors. I've had so many fall through. I'm a very positive person, and I've had a lot of people promise me stuff, and shit happens.
It's like Field of Dreams, man.
Yeah, shit happens.
If you build it, they will come.
That's exactly what I'm hoping for. So just so you know, this pod mic stand, that pod mic stand, they're getting sent back. I had to return the microphones that I had to get the matching set with the mixer because it would work better together. These microphones are actually cheaper than the ones that I had before.
Oh, wow.
So I'm saving money, and the sound quality should be better because the mixer that I got, I don't know if y'all can see that colorful mixer over there.
It's good. Very colorful.
Yes, and it's allowed me to do everything that I have. I have 2 other mics. We can have 4 guests. We can have people over a phone. But while we're here, I'll let you know what's coming down the line. I have the mayor of Fort Worth coming Saturday.
No way.
What's today's date? I don't know. Do you know?
Today is Wednesday.
Wednesday what?
Wednesday the 2nd.
Okay, so today's Wednesday the 2nd.
Mayor Betsy Price.
Mayor Betsy Price from Fort Worth. She is going to be coming on the show Saturday around noon. Obviously, I don't do live episodes, so that's not going to make a difference.
That's awesome.
I have a SWAT officer. He's going to be coming. I've got a retiree episode that's going to be happening. I've got 3 retirees that are going to come in and just talk about policing from the past to the present.
That's good. Those guys are super knowledgeable.
Yes.
We need to glean the information from them.
Yes. So, and you know how it is when they get together, the stories are going to be great and they're going to hopefully have a good time. It's going to be a little crowded in here. Zentino should be here for most of them. I have 2 African-American officers. I say officers. One is actually pretty high ranking and the other one is a sergeant. And they're going to talk about policing as a black officer in America today.
Important.
So I think that's going to be a good one. I have a neighborhood patrol officer who's going to bring in a community leader who isn't necessarily pro-police.
That's good.
They're very vocal about their concerns with police. And so they're going to come in and we're going to talk. So I'm real excited with the prospects I have coming down the line. You were a big one because I'm a big technology nerd, and I think people want that type of information. Yeah. So
happy to do it, man.
Open invitation to my nurses, my teachers, my FD. Oh, my military buddy is coming. He's actually a military police officer in the Air Force, and he's coming Friday Thursday or Friday, and I'm going to get him on, and he's going to give his perspective on policing and the difference between the military versus civilian world and how he's seen it and stuff like that.
That will be a very interesting listen.
So that will be fun too. And he's a riot. Like, everybody's got that friend. Like, he's that friend that I have. Like, we're going to probably do karaoke later that night. It's not going to take a whole lot of effort. So I'm excited for that. So that's what we got coming down the pipe. HRH Combat Arms has really, they've been the ones that have come through. They've got actually their own what do you call it? Cause that they look out for, and it's called 10-7 Outdoor. So if you get a chance to look at 10-7 Outdoor, look up their cause, and I don't want to speak on it because I don't know it by heart, and I don't want to speak incorrectly on it. But if you go look up 10-7 Outdoor, and the basic premise that I know of it is fallen officers that have been killed in the line of duty, they take their children and they take them on hunting trips or outdoor trips, fishing trips, stuff like that, camping. And
great cause. Support those people.
Yeah, support those people. I also have another one that Winky Hicks is going to come in and talk about, so I don't want to ruin that yet. He really wants to, it's a 9/11 fundraiser he's been doing for the last 20 years or so. So I want him to come in and talk about that too. So
another super knowledgeable retired guy.
Yes. So I'm like you said, I'm really pumped at the direction. I'm even more humbled by the support. Everybody I work with, I have not had a single person like, oh my God, dude, what are you doing? That's stupid. They've all been like, dude, this is awesome. Or, I really like where you're going. You're improving. That's my favorite one. Hey, you've really improved.
Like, so, you weren't that great to begin with, but you're getting better.
Yeah, you're really improving. So if you want to see more improvements, guys, please help me out. Help me get these sponsors. I feel like such a beggar. I hate it. But like I said,
people like you should be supported.
Thank you, brother.
We've got to. The narrative is getting made for us.
Yes,
it's important to get voices in here.
Yes,
that can set the record straight.
Yes,
so and keep doing what you're doing.
And everybody just understand there's a fine balance we have to play. We're both still employed by a police department, and if we come across negatively, they can us, and it may be unintentional, may be intentional, whatever it is, but. So this is still a risk for both of us, and we're willing to do that to help improve this community relation, and I think it's worth it.
Yeah,
I think it's worth it. So, all right, that's all I got, brother. Good show.
Yeah.
Did you have a good time?
Good time.
All right, bro. We ended the same way every time. Fist bump. Thanks for being here. Take it easy.